Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Night Owl, a show that we do twice a week where we discuss all the latest in pop culture news, TV and movie reviews, gaming news, and just the general conversations of the day. For those who don't know me, I'm Price of Reason, and with me, as always, is my co host, Professor R2. How's it going, Professor?
Hey, doing fine. Glad to be here. Good to see you this
Oh,
evening, Price. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I see that your whatever that mechanism
Yeah,
beeping thing
yeah,
is
yeah.
working.
It's got that working right now. So,
So yeah, I mean, every day there's just so much going on, and sometimes you want to talk about one thing, and another thing pops up. Especially since Trump was sworn into office, I feel like we have a lot of stuff going on every day.
oh yeah, it's just one thing after another. You hardly get a time any chance to breathe.
Right, and I guess for starters, we had a lot of stuff going on with Trump. I don't even think I covered all the stuff that happened, but I guess one thing that I saw today is that everybody was worried about these tariffs, but somehow I saw that there was another kind of delay that they said, okay, well, we're going to delay some of these tariffs, to April. They gave like a month delay, at least when it comes to Mexico. I think that a lot of stuff that there were tariffs on, I think that's kind of been suspended. Is that the case?
Yeah, that's what I understand is that they've decided to push back some of these tariffs, both for Mexico and for Canada, is what I understand. They're specifically, I think they are saying that there's specifically some goods that fit under different trade agreements that if we raise the tariffs under a certain way at a certain time, whatever, that could be a problem. So they're going to say, yeah, for this stuff, yeah, we're definitely going to push that back for a month. So I hopefully that helps give the market a little bit of time to adjust. I know we've talked about it. We talked about it here and individually, like just about how it's really messing with the market. They're not sure what to do when he keeps saying, "Oh, we're gonna have tariffs," and then like the next day he's like, we're gonna push it back for another month, right?" Because he did that, already once, right? He did that with Canada, with Mexico, and then they agreed to put some troops on the border or whatever, and then he pushed it back. So now it's like, okay, so you pushed it back and now you're gonna push it back again? I don't know.
You know, I think, and we were talking about this earlier. I think that the general vibe is he wanted to come in and make a big splash and say, "I'm here now. All this crap that was going on, I don't like it, and I want it to change." And I think that his automatic reaction is just like, "I'm slapping all these tariffs. I'm slapping all these tariffs." But in reality, there's somewhat of a negotiating tactic. And I think that at the end of the day, especially when it comes to Mexico, he wants their help in not letting people cross the border. He wants, that whole drug thing to stop. I think that that genuinely is something that interests him when it comes to the Mexican border. And as long as they're somehow working some kind of deal with him, I think that he's willing to play ball with them more. So it's a negotiation tactic on one hand. On the other hand, though, it is sort of shaking the economy a bit because I think that a lot of markets and a lot of people just don't quite know what to make of it, and especially now he is doing it, he isn't doing it, he's delaying it, is he not delaying it? uh, there's an upside to what he's doing in the sense that he's kind of putting a lot of these countries in their place, and that the spirit of that and what he's doing I don't dislike. But as I was telling you last time, sometimes when you do a lot of stuff very suddenly and very quickly, sometimes that maybe rattles, it's too many feathers being ruffled at once. Maybe, I don't know, I can't tell you for sure. I'm just saying that, like, I'll give you the best example that I can. I once worked at a company, and I started working there. I was relatively young, and there was a guy. He was like, the boss. He was like the owner of the company. And I told him, you should do this and you should do that and you should do, and maybe this person isn't doing a good job and you should do this. Even suggesting that maybe some of the employees that are there aren't really working for doing the work they need to do. Really, a lot of stuff. I gave him like a shopping list of all this stuff that could be done to make like his company more efficient, and he was like, easy there, you don't come in and do all of this in one day. You know what I mean? Like, he
Mhm.
was very hesitant, like, these things, you can't just come in one day and do all these millions of things at the same time. You gradually do it. Like, you don't just come in there like dick swinging and, like, do all this stuff in 1 second. um and I thought that was a pretty good lesson. Sometimes you could do all these things and maybe you need to ease into them. I understand that that's not Trump's style. Trump does not ease into it. He wants to put his foot down and do whatever he does.
Yep, he wants to come in and make a splash, just like you said. And I think, there were some things that I do think he came in and wanted to get done right away, wanted to really just, put the hammer down on certain things, coming in on allowing women or men to compete in women's sports, just, smashing that hammer. No, uh, just saying, nope, the federal government, we're only going to recognize two genders, right?
I
Coming in and just dropping that hammer. There's a bunch of those things that I thought, you know what? Yes, day one, he's going to put those priorities down. And then there's other things that it's like, I mean, how much of a priority is it if you delay it this much and then you delay it that much? And you know what I mean? It just seems
I think
like it's just a lot all at once.
I understand in his mind, he wanted to put all these keep all these people on their toes. He wanted to see the likes of Justin Trudeau and that shine bomb lady in Mexico. He wanted to see them really stressed and worried because he's arrived, he's pissed, and he's putting his foot down. I don't necessarily disagree with that. It's just maybe doing all of these tariffs at the same time. In the way that he did it, it's a good way to maybe show them who's boss, but at the same time, you also have to take into consideration what's happening, to the market at the same time. So maybe it was a bit sudden where it could have been a little more gradual. I hope that still this thing, will kind of fall into place. As I've said last time when somebody was like, "Oh, you're the people on CNN." I'm not like the people on CNN. I'm really rooting for him to succeed. I also think that, what you said now with men not competing in women's sports, I think that was great. Seeing him walk in and really pretty much on day 1 saying no more of this. I thought that was great. It was something somebody needed to put their foot down and do that. He came and he did it immediately, and I think that's exactly what needed to happen. I don't even care what you feel about how people you want to transition or not transition, all this other stuff. The fact that just physically, for all these years, for since the beginning of time, men and women wouldn't compete together in sports since the day sports were invented, and there's a reason for it. And to one day say, well, we don't want to hurt this person's feelings, so this dude is going to go beat up all these ladies. As he said when he signed it, it's demeaning for women. It's not respectful towards women to do that. And I think it was one of those things that everybody was so woke that they didn't want to admit it.
Yeah, yeah, and it was and continues to be a losing issue for the left as well, and they seem to be doubling down on it in a lot of different places. So, I think he was right to really step in and really start pushing hard on that. I think that's one issue that he was real certain that from day one, when he made that a priority, he was going to start winning a lot of fans. Maybe solidifying some fans by really just stepping in and saying, this is insanity. It stops now. Right?
Uh,
It stops now.
I'm trying to highlight this comment here from Rockstra. He says he learned from his first term that he can't screw around. He needs to put the pedal down and go fast. I understand that. I totally get it because I understood that was his strategy. He wanted from the first day to hit the ground running. I appreciate getting a lot of things done. I appreciate that, but I guess sometimes there's some upsides to it and some downsides to it. To come in and do you know a million executive orders and decide on a million things within 43 days, like he did. Maybe the good outweighs the bad, but in some cases, it didn't exactly work 100%. Like with the tariffs, I think that one isn't working exactly like maybe how he intended initially.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that it will lead to good negotiations. A lot of these things are, let's say, in Canada, with all of their whining, they're the ones that have all these tariffs on goods that are coming into the U.S. I mean, why can't they lower all these tariffs? Like,
Yeah.
I understand his mentality, thinking to himself, "Why are we paying all this shit all day? Sorry, Sean, and why are these guys not paying?" It's not a mistake to think that. Like, and honestly, there couldn't be like a leader that seems like I don't know if to me personally, Justin Trudeau is just very annoying. I also don't understand. He said he was leaving, and then he doesn't leave. It's like you said you're stepping down, just go already.
Oh, I
I feel
cut
like
out
he's been
there.
there.
Cut out there for a second. Sorry.
Did I cut out or you cut out?
No, I did. I think I dropped for a bit.
I'm just saying that Justin Trudeau, I feel like he's been there for a long time. Then he said he's leaving, but he's not leaving. And Trump said, "Oh, this is what he's going to use now to try to stay," and and he is. And now they're doing all this stuff. Oh, the Canadians have never been more patriotic about Canada.
Yes,
Well,
he needs to pull a Zelensky and just
he's doing
continue
a
on.
complete Zelensky. Like
Yeah,
Justin Trudeau, I just that guy rubs me the wrong way. And
yeah. Did you see the ridiculous meme today that from Canada about coffee?
what was it? I didn't see it.
Okay, so there was a coffee shop in Canada that renamed the Americano as a Canadiano, and we're supposed to feel real burned by that, I guess.
I see. Istophobos is saying that CNN gave him approval from the other night. Tell us some jokes for a second, Professor. I want to try to go and come back to see if I can. Maybe if I do this, it'll help.
Oh, tell
No,
some
I have to go and come
jokes.
back.
Yeah, tell
Tell
some
some
jokes.
jokes. I'll be right back.
Jokes. What is really a joke? I'm sure we'll get to talk about Gavin Newsom a little bit later on, but as we were just talking about with all of those different executive orders. One of those executive orders was talking about men in women's sports, getting men out of women's sports, and of course today. We'll get to talk some more about Gavin Newsom later on, but he basically said today that he believes that men should not be playing in women's sports and that that's an embarrassment and we should never have allowed that. So breaking with the vast majority of his party, which is 100% behind men punching women in the face. They love it. They absolutely love that stuff. They're totally all about men getting in and playing women's volleyball and smashing a ball so hard into a woman's face that it causes her a concussion. They're all about that, but apparently Gavin Newsom has decided that he's ready to split with the party on that issue. So who knows? That's going to be an interesting thing going forward. Like I said, I'm sure we'll say more about Gavin Newsom later on, but
Oh, I have plenty to say about him, but
personally, yeah, he'll say whatever it takes.
absolutely. We'll have a lot to say about that. So the Dead Man gave a super chat for $5, and thank you, the Dead Man. I really appreciate that.
Yes, thank you.
Price, you should rename the night owl to "What's the problem?" and then talk about the same things you talked about.
What's the problem?
What's the problem? Oh, you had it?
What's the problem?
That's it. I did a good impression of him,
Yeah, that's pretty good.
considering that I don't sound like Michael Jackson. Yeah. What's the problem? So I agree with you, the Dead Man. That is a good idea. We can rename our show that. And Dude Bro Seth is here doing his Leonardo DiCaprio cheering, which I also appreciate. So yeah, so basically, I guess the question is that was one thing I saw with Trump. The other thing is, I saw that he also kind of had some stuff to say about things that are going on in the Middle East. Again, I don't disagree with his firm stance, but he's making some very grand statements there. This is between the lines. People are saying that there's also some kind of negotiating behind the scenes, and maybe this is his way. I think he's trying to rattle some of these people over there, whether it's the people like Hamas or something like that. But I think he's also trying to nudge, whether it be Egypt or Saudi Arabia, one of those other ones, to take more action and to do something. I think that the more he says that, he's hoping that this will annoy them and they'll take a more active role. I really believe that.
Yeah, yeah. You always have to consider when you're thinking about Donald Trump and any action that he's taking is what is the end is what he's doing the end game, because most of the time it's not. His end game is not to uh just piss somebody off. His end game is not to just end whatever negotiations going on with Zelensky. No, he's negotiating. He's playing for the next play. I'm not saying he's playing four-dimensional chess. I'm not saying that. But he's thinking about these things as a businessman. He's thinking about them in terms of negotiations. How can he pressure somebody? I mean, hell, the guy practically wrote the book He did write a book
Right.
on high pressure negotiations, right? It's what he does.
It's what he does,
He
and he likes pressing people's buttons. He knows that
Yes.
there's certain countries or in that region. He says a few things, and he thinks that things will get moving along. I mean, for good and for bad, I think that before he went into office, he made statements. Then he arrived, and he made statements, and some things were happening. I mean, we don't have all the hostages returned, but at least there was like a batch of hostages that were returned, and I think he really pushed and was very aggressively pushing for that, and he met with hostages that were released this week, and I'm, hopeful that maybe some of his very assertive talking about the issue will have more hostages released.
Hopefully, yes. There's been a number of things have been going on over there. Obviously, that since the ceasefire deal, there have been, allegations on both sides that they're breaching the deal, that they're breaking their promises and whatnot. So that's kind of par for the course, right? What's going on over there? They're each going to try and get advantage somehow, so they can do whatever. But I think Trump is not wrong in really coming out to say, "Look, you made a deal. Release the hostages." Right? If you want help from us, if you want sympathy from us, release the damn hostages,
Right.
and follow up with the rules you've had. We're talking about here too. In most cases, they've been releasing a couple, half dozen hostages at a time, where Israel's been releasing dozens, if not hundreds, of
Hundreds,
prisoners,
sometimes thousands even. Like,
sometimes
they're
thousands.
they're releasing a ton of people. There's no comparison to what Israel's releasing and what they're releasing. In some cases, they're releasing a bunch of, like, living, hostages, Israel not sorry, living, prisoners for bones of hostages, meaning
Yes,
hostages that were killed, and they're just giving them the bones of the hostages, so.
yeah. Like, oh well, they've been dead for a year. Sorry, here's
Right, and I think that actually this is just my instinct. I feel like when I saw that meeting with Trump, and, the hostages talking to him, I felt that his tone became more, more assertive even after that meeting, that he was just saying that he's tired of, of hearing about all these bones that they're keeping and sending, and he just seemed really annoyed. I almost felt like there was genuinely something that annoyed him when he made that statement.
absolutely, yeah.
So.
He was very much hoping to see
Right, no, I agree with
more
Phobos that Israel
more
has
hostages.
prisoners, not hostages. That is a
Yes,
distinction.
is
I
very
did not
it is a
mean
distinction. We're not yeah.
were absolutely they have prisoners and they have hostages. It's very different, and in a lot of cases, Israel sometimes has had to make concessions where not only now, just over the years, where they're like, "Well, we want these 100 terrorists, and we'll give you this one person," and they've had to comply, and they've done that just to get back their one person. They've given up like 100 terrorists. It's
Yeah,
unfortunate, but these are things that are happening, and, yeah, sometimes difficult decisions have to be made, especially, I'm not saying that if these were, military hostages, that this would be any better. I still don't think that that's very bad also, but when you're talking about civilians that were, like, kidnapped, some of them out of their bed or from a music festival,
mhm,
this is like you're working very hard. Like sometimes women and children, you're working very hard to get those people out of there.
yeah, yeah, and
If you understand what I'm saying, like
no,
sometimes
I know exactly what you
people
mean,
are like,
yeah,
"Well, he was a soldier. He knew what he was signing up for." Which again, even that I don't love. Even that is a more complicated conversation. But people at a music festival or women and children sleeping in their bed, that's a different ball game.
yeah.
Uh,
And I saw a story today, it was a hilarious story about how, Democrats aren't doing enough to call Trump out for all the time, he's calling workers back into the office, but he's spending time on the golf course, and I'm like, there's a damn good reason they're not calling him out for time he's spending on the golf course or time that he spends working at Mar-a-Lago. It's because Biden spent 40% of his time in office either on the golf course or relaxing on a friggin' beach. They
uh,
have absolutely no leg to stand on. to be like, he's on the golf course. I'm like, yeah, there's a reason they're not calling him out
There's
for that.
nothing for him. Also, there's nothing to say that this time around, whatever, from day one, from the second that he was sworn in, he's doing stuff. He's not. I don't think anybody at this point, if anything, all these Democrats are very whining all the time that he's doing too much. Like, I
Mhm.
don't think that they can make the argument that he's not doing. He signed like a million executive orders, is just sitting in the Oval Office, meeting after meeting, the executive order after executive order. They wish,
That-
they wish
that-
that he went to the
They're either
golf course.
whining, or they're doing this.
So cringe.
Just unbelievably bad. Good God.
I thought that this was AI at the beginning, like somebody made a joke, and then Erwin from Nerd Wars earlier was like, "No, this is real. This really,
No,
it's
no,
not
they
AI," and he was
really
telling
did
him,
this. They thought it was going to be real clever to get up there and pretend like they're Street Fighter characters and choose your fight. And then they have all their little stats showing up at the bottom. Oh my God. It's like, what? Uh, yeah. Oh,
Beep
jeez.
Bop Boop has an interesting comment. A good way to tell the good guys from the bad guys. Where would you rather live, Palestine or Israel? Not talking about wartime, talking about their social policies and laws. Well, the thing is that, and in Israel, and I think a lot of people don't understand that there is actually 20% Arabs living in Israel. There's Muslims, Jews, and Christians living in Israel. Every ethnicity you can think of lives in Israel. You can think of the whitest people and black people and people with brown skin, and really, it, it is very, very diverse. And I think that a lot of times with all this kind of talk and propaganda you hear from these, like, kind of crazy APs and CNNs and BBCs and whatever, this really gets lost. People don't realize what the population or what even living in that country is like, versus if you wouldn't see all of that in you know in Gaza. There's very low tolerance. Also, if you came in there, if you're like, oh hey, I'm Jewish, what's up? Like, you're done. You know what I mean? Like, you can't go there. Yeah, yeah. It's not kind of tolerant and accepting towards all these other people, and their own kind of charter of what they believe in is very negative towards people that are not like them. If you understand what I mean.
Oh, yeah, it is.
So
Yeah.
it is a big difference, and I think that a lot of times, people that are, you see them in the street, like those videos you saw of those students, they protest, and then one of those kind of reporters or Charlie Kirk or one of those people kind of walk up to them and they're like, "Hey, do you even know what this conflict is about?" And then they start talking about it. These kind of college kids, they don't even know what the conflict is about. They're standing there blabbing a bunch of like things, and they're holding signs, and they have watermelons and I don't know what, and they have no idea what it is that they're even protesting.
Not a clue. Yeah. They're just joining in on what they think is the revolution, right? They're gonna they're gonna change the world. Yeah,
Yeah,
not
so
really.
and I think that listen, I don't expect anything. We also saw this. I told you this with last time with Russia and Ukraine. Sometimes you're far away from a conflict and far away from an issue, and maybe you're not an expert in it and you don't really know all the ins and outs. And that's why, like, I'm always very careful. I try to learn the best I can about an issue, but at the same time there's certain times where maybe you don't fully get it. But it is what it
Mhm.
is. Caleb Levine saying useful idiots. A lot of those college students that were, protesting, in my opinion, would fit that bill. Uh, some of them basically not even having the full facts or knowing. It's unfortunate that sometimes I don't know who said this. I'm trying to think if it was Chris Gore. Maybe it wasn't Chris Gore. No, I think he said that about something else. So I'm going to sort of borrow from him and say that in the past you had kids that are like, oh, like, in the late 60s, oh, make love not war, I don't want to this, I'm fuck the system, I don't know what. Sorry, Sean. And then today it's like, oh, like, I'll put on a keffiyeh and like I'll say that I love, like, Palestine. But these are things that are very, very different, and it's a situation that you have a lot of people that are just not even knowledgeable. It seems like a trendy thing to do to them. For them, they think they're being like anti-establishment or something.
Yeah. And that's yeah, every generation has that, rebellious, streak, and some a little bit more than others, but it's just they don't even really understand what it is they're rebelling against, except the decolonize things. Most of
Right.
them
They're
don't even
like,
know
"Oh,
what that.
The West colonized." But that's not even just exclusive to Israel. That's even here in the US. It's the same narrative. And this is what annoys me. It's like when I've been speaking out for years about what happened with Disney, and how they were pushing all this propaganda into their movies and how Hollywood was following suit and all the stuff that they've been peddling, I kept saying, there's a generation of kids that are now growing up and watching this content in these movies. It's everywhere. And somehow in their minds is going to sink in that the West is bad and they're colonizers and they should hate their own country. And at the same time, they can choose whatever gender they want just based on a whim and all this other stuff. It really feels, people are like, oh, China somehow was involved in spreading this because they know it like destroys like a culture and a country for doing this. And I tend to think that maybe, even though it sounds like a conspiracy theory, it wouldn't surprise me if that's the case because they've done so much damage. And all those people, all those kind of, far left people in these Hollywood studios and everybody that pushed this propaganda really, complicit in this activity. And it's done a lot of damage. Some of this is damage that I don't know how easy it'll be to reverse. Even with Trump, even with all the, pendulum swinging back, it's not easy to cancel out so much of this damage.
Eventually, some of these kids are going to wake up and they're going to realize how ridiculous some of the things they were trying to support, fight for actually were. It's really interesting to see uh, how many people already you're seeing a bunch of people who were, formerly they were social justice warriors. They were dyed in the wool Democrats that are already starting to realize that their party never stood for anything except getting their vote, and that was it.
That was it. Istophobos says that's how you get gays for Palestine. Yes,
Exactly.
ridiculous situation because
Absurd.
if you're in Palestine and they believe you're gay, that the custom is generally there's a roof nearby, they tend to kind of throw you off. That's kind of the local
Yeah.
custom or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Um, it's not only that, and this is the stuff kind of nuances that I think not everybody knows. Some of the people that were taken hostage, or even at this music festival, were very, very kind of I don't know I don't know if woke is the right word to say. Some of these people were like huge supporters. They were like those kind of activists that wanted to support. There's this one older gentleman that like his whole life he dedicated to this kind of, being on that side of the politics, really, talking. Basically, he was very much pro Gaza, like to an extreme. And what do you think happened to him? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
For years, he actually tried to help. He tried to like help children, help this. He was like an activist basically. And at the end, on October 7th, they kidnapped the guy, and none of his history, none of his what his background was, who he was, what he did, what he believed in, trying to help them. Nothing helped him. They killed him.
Yep.
Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
That
It was
y
indiscriminate. It had nothing to do with, and there were even, some of the people that were involved in this, we know we've got audio and video of them, talking, saying, "Oh, guess how many people I killed today, Dad? Aren't you proud of me for all the people that I slaughtered and murdered?" And they didn't care who it was that they were getting a hold of. They didn't care what views they had. Everyone who was on the other side to them was a target, and the people who were moderates and who even progressives who wanted to help people in Gaza. They wanted their government to be more generous towards those people than They were caught, they were killed just as easily as anyone else.
In addition, also, and I think that's another thing. Some people think I understand. Sometimes people they're only thinking of what's happening next to them. But when you think about the fact, and this is just my opinion, of course, in that music festival and some of the places nearby, these guys killed people that were there were a few people from different countries in Asia that they killed. They just saw them and they killed them because they're there. It's not like they said, "Oh, these guys are Asian, so and they're not even Israelis or anything like that. Let's let them go." You know what I mean? There was no kind of, "Oh, maybe these people. Let's just select the kind of people we don't like." They don't really like anybody, and uh, and I think that's like the cautionary tale. The way I look at it, that I think that a lot of people are looking at it from certain angles, and again, I can't say, you don't live in a certain place, you're far away, and it's hard to sort of maybe see things from different angles. But I do think that when there's a group of people that are just willing to kill anybody, just for no real reason whatsoever, that's actually not good. That's all I can say. That's my opinion about it. But yeah, so yeah, that man says Hamas are not the good guys. Yeah, I don't think they are, and I think that the way they didn't discriminate in their actions really says a lot about who they are and what they believe in. But back. I don't know how we got to that whole thing. Just a U-turn back to what we're talking about here. I think that I did like the fact that Trump met with them, and I liked hearing what he had to say. And if there's something that he can do to get some more people released, I think that that would be great, because I think that as long as Biden was there, I don't feel like things really moved. And from the second that Trump showed up, I do feel like some hostages were released. There's still more, but some of them were released. Due to his efforts and sort of his overall attitude, and it's a good attitude to have. So the big ship says, "Has Price done story time yet?" No, I haven't been. I don't know. We went. We went.
Yeah, we got
We
right
went into
into it.
like a
We
lot of.
we haven't found our way over to story time just yet.
Yeah, we haven't found it. So I guess. But what we were talking about? I was talking about Charlie Kirk, and I think he went and interviewed some people, and they didn't even know about the conflict, and they don't even know what they're protesting. Uh, it's best if you don't know anything at all. Sometimes it's best not to go out and protest and say things that are even not even good for your own country. It's like, what, you're supporting like people that want the destruction of your own country. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But speaking of Charlie Kirk, today we had a situation where Gavin Newsom, who started some kind of podcast, had him over for a conversation. Now, before we kind of dig deeper into that, I just want to say that I don't love what Gavin Newsom is doing. First of all, I don't prefer the guy. There's fires in LA. LA is still trying to recover from that. Maybe focus on doing your job. Why is this man sitting around doing podcasts? I really don't understand it. That's the first thing that annoys me. The other thing is that I think that he realized how disliked he is amongst, like, maybe Republicans and even Democrats, how little people think of him. And his new strategy is like, I'm going to do this cool podcast. I'm going to talk to people across the aisle. I'm not a far left person. I'm more of kind of a, moderate left. I'm sort of in the middle. And I don't believe the guy. I don't believe him for a second. That's a guy that I don't believe him. And it's fine. Charlie Kirk can do whatever he wants, and if he wants to sit and have this kind of conversation on his podcast, it's fine. But I think also, I don't know how much time this Gavin Newsom guy deserves from anybody. You know what I mean? Right now, he's sort of like a guy that nobody likes, nobody thinks anything of, and he's just sitting around. And to even give him that attention, I don't know if that's good or not. That's just my opinion. I'm not hating on Charlie Kirk. I think he does an okay job when he goes through all the colleges, and maybe he saw some value in sort of having a debate with Gavin Newsom, which I'll try to find a clip shortly. But I'm not sure that I feel good about Gavin Newsom doing this maneuver, trying to pretend that he's like reaching across the aisle. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Gavin Newsom is just one of those political characters that it baffles me how he has ever been successful, aside from the fact that he's just this slick dude who shows up and tells people whatever the hell they want to hear. Like I don't understand how he's made it this far without people recognizing that he's just a chameleon. He just shows up and says whatever is going to make that crowd happy. And yes, Mary, he is absolutely trying to polish himself up for 2028.
And Fandom to hold office and podcast. Yeah, I mean, your state, the shit has hit the fan. Sorry, Sean. You cannot sit around. What are you doing? What are you doing with this podcast? It's like the guy. When you said you don't understand how he got to where he got. The thing that bothers me the most, this man has no shame. It's like where a regular person would have a feeling of like, you know what, I didn't do such a good job here. I want to do right by this, by voters, whatever. This man, you look at him, he has no shame. Just like during the fires when some lady's like, hey, my house is burning, and he runs away into his car and drives away. That is Gavin Newsom.
Can you tell us what you're doing? I'm talking to President Trump right now. Well, can you know, or I'm talking to President Biden or whatever. He's like, can I talk to can I hear your conversation? Well, no, I'm running around trying to get service. So no, you're not actually talking to them right now. Uh, you're walking around trying to find service. Like it's ridiculous.
Like
God, he's a
amidst
clown.
Amidst legitimate calls for him to resign, he's like, "Oh, I know what to do. I make a podcast. Let's invite Charlie Kirk. Let me show that I'm going to be like the middle of the road candidate, like people said for 2028." And man, it's like that's what you're thinking about now. How do you save your stupid career and presidency? Not even 5 minutes after this whole fire thing happened, which I don't believe that anybody's really recovered from. That's your first order of business. How do you position yourself better for 2028? I don't know. And now you said that he was saying that indeed men shouldn't be competing in women's sport. He said this.
Yes, actually,
Do you have like any kind of
maybe I
quote or
can
clip or something?
find it here. Let's see, because I had it earlier, and then I think I accidentally closed that.
Anyhow, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
That guy is just such a slippery flip flopper, and yeah, there aren't many politicians. There's politicians that I like more and less, and I've told you before that I don't love politicians in general. We talk about politics here because I think it's very important to people these days, and there's a lot going on, and it's fair enough that we also discuss it. But it's not that I like put all of my faith in the world in politicians. But with that being said, there's a few politicians that stand out that I really don't prefer, and Gavin Newsom is on that list. You know what I mean? Like he just that guy rubs me the wrong way. There's something just very slippery about him that I don't like.
Yeah, I'm trying to get this article open, and it was paywalled. Well, hold on, let me see if I can find another one.
Anyhow, so he went to Charlie Kirk. Let me see if I can find the Charlie Kirk clip because I think there was at least a clip of this somewhere. So,
yeah, well, you look for that here. I found one that wasn't paywalled. So, so it's shown here. There is actually a video on here. This was reported by WLWT5, I think Cincinnati. Okay, sure. California Governor Gavin Newsom, a potential 2028 Democratic presidential candidate. Oh, yes, he is. He really wants to be on top of that list. Used his inaugural episode of this podcast to break from progressives, speaking about allowing transgender women and girls to compete in a female sport. Newsom made his declaration in an extended conversation with conservative activist Charlie Kirk, the 31-year-old who built the influential Turning Point USA organization and helped President Trump increase his support last fall among the youngest generation of voters. By the way, in that lower demographic, he's still holding a 60-40 lead. Republicans and Trump specifically holding a 60-40 lead in support in that younger group, which is fascinating, right? Because you think, well, they're all out there protesting, for people who love watermelons, but apparently not. Apparently, there's quite a few of them that are pretty happy with Trump and pretty happy with what he's doing. So, um, during that, we have a quote here. He says, "I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that. It's an issue of fairness. It's deeply unfair." As he was saying, uh, I'm not wrestling with the fairness issue. I totally agree with you. I revere sports, so it's an issue of fairness. I completely legit. So what he was talking about was they were engaging and talking about men competing in women's sports and how when you're allowing transgender athletes who what I'll be completely honest. If you are an adult and you are transgender, if that is your choice, if you're choosing that for yourself in your right mind, then okay, what I can't change your mind. I'm not going to change who you are. But if you're saying that you are now wanting to be in women's spaces and compete in women's sports, if you grew up as a man and had testosterone, male puberty, you are not the same as a woman. I don't care how much you want to say it. I don't care how many times people want to scream this on social media. There's a reason it says trans woman. It's because you're not actually a woman. You know, you're presenting yourself as one, but you're not. You grew up as a man. You have masculine features. You grew and put on bone and muscle like someone who went through male puberty. To say now that you should be able to compete against women in swimming or volleyball or any number of different sports because oh well my feelings I feel like a woman. No, it's absurd. And exactly, it is an issue of fairness. There are people who should not be allowed to compete in women's sports. They're called men. They're biological men. They do not belong in women's
Right.
sports. If the agencies, if different groups want to get together and decide that there's some open category where now, trans people can compete, great. Fine. Do that. I don't care. But to say now we're just going to make it so that, oh, well, a man can just change his pronouns and claim I am a woman and now come over and compete in women's sports, compete in ways, in events where they're finishing minutes ahead of their closest competition. That's absolutely absurd. It's insane that we would entertain that for even a minute, and we've been doing it for years.
Bebop Boop is saying, I agree, adults have every right to do what they want with their life, but kids are a different story. I agree with that too. I
Kids
mean,
are a different story.
first of all, kids are a different story. And the other thing is that say we're talking about adults and men and women in sports. Since the beginning of time, you have men competing separately and women's competing separately. And I think there's a reason for it. And we can't change the reasons for this just so that somebody feels good about themselves. I personally don't care what people do. If there's an adult person that decided they wanted to do this or that, or present themselves or wear a dress or whatever, that is not my concern or my business. They can go around. It's a free country. They can, wear a dress or whatever it is. If they show up and they want to compete with women, like we saw in that boxing thing in the Olympics, where some guy was basically beating up on a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And just so you know that I'm gonna choose my words carefully here. We had done a stream at the time, and on certain platforms, I just want to say this: after our stream, when we talked about the boxer guy in the Olympics, in some platforms, the stream disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say more beyond that. I'm not looking to start uh, making a fuss about anything. Some platform, for some reason, our stream disappeared. And at the end, this thing that everybody's like, how dare you say this guy is a dude? I think later it turned out that the guy was a dude, meaning he sure looked like a dude, but then it turned out that they did some tests, and I think that they reached the conclusion that indeed he was a dude. Correct?
Yes. Well, as I understand it, at least from the leaks that have come out from some of the international doctors that were involved in like the boxing stuff or whatever, some of the people have come out to say that actually, yes, he is, has X chromosomes. He is intersex, which there's a very small number of people in the world that are intersex, and I do believe that they deserve to have our kindness and in dealing with that illness, whatever. But he did have X and Y chromosomes, and that he has basically a micro penis and internal testes. So he did not develop fully as a man, and so maybe he was raised as a girl, whatever. He has high levels of testosterone, genetically is a male, should not be allowed to compete against women. It's ridiculous.
Uh, Istophobos says he was intersex, but with male chromosomes. I think that, anybody that looked at that and looked what he looked like and that other lady was beating up, that was a difficult sell there. I think that there should be limitations and certain rules in place that wouldn't allow for that to happen. And President Trump doing what he did, I think that out of all the things that he came in, he's just like, I've decided this and this, and he signed the executive order. I think that anybody with common sense would think that that makes sense. I mean,
Mhm.
you don't want to endanger young ladies. There's a reason why, like, you wouldn't see like a young lady going and trying out for the football team with all men. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't see that. Also, the other way around. Even if she's like, "Oh, I want to be I'm a trans male now. I want to go be on the football team." She'd get clobbered.
Yeah. Just crushed. And putting themselves in danger by just being out there, right? And that's why there's a number of players, especially now that they've been emboldened in the last year or so by a number of people who have started speaking up more, and now especially since Trump is in office, people stepping up and saying, "Look, no, I will not compete against a man. If you're going to allow a man to compete, you just let them compete. I'm going to sit out." And I'm going to do that as protest to show you that I will not compete against a man. And so he'll win this round, he'll win this match, he'll win this race, whatever. He gets to win that with no one competing against him and feel that shame because you didn't actually win this. And that that's what it's going to take. It's going to take people in power stepping up and saying, "No, stop this. This is wrong." And it's going to take the bravery of, some young women, as we have already started to see, stepping up and saying, "It's not happening anymore. I will not compete. I'm going to stand up for my rights as a woman to say this is unfair to allow men into a women's sport." So I'm glad to know that's happening, happening more. And hopefully now with the support coming from Donald Trump and from his administration, to try and push things, in Title IX back to where they belong, to say, the whole reason we had Title IX was to protect women's sports. It was a whole thing. Like, and if we're now just going to say, well, men can compete in women's sports, then it means nothing. Like that, and all of the other stuff. There's a lot of other stuff wrong with Title IX too. But that it's been extremely frustrating to watch this constant thing, to where if you say, well, that's not fair, then people say, "Ugh, it's you're a transphobe, you're this, you're that, you're all these things." And it's like, no, I'm saying that that's not fair. That there's that there's young women now who are just saying, "I'm not going to compete in sports because even if I do, I'm not going to be able to succeed. I'm not going to be able to excel. I'm not going to win medals because there's just going to be a guy who says, 'Oh, nope, I'm actually a woman.'" And then a mediocre athlete who would normally finish in the 50th place in men's sports is going to come over and suddenly be a gold medalist every time. It's ridiculous.
Now, just to take just quickly point this out, we're casting on a few different platforms. Our home base for the Night Owl is Rumble. Rumble is our headquarters. This is a homegrown Rumble show, and it's a Rumble driven show. And if you're on Rumble right now and you're watching through the app, which I know a lot of people do, they use an app. They just sometimes it's even on TV, and they're just using an app and they see something, and they check out a stream or or maybe they frequently listen to this stream. The thing is that it doesn't cost any money to join Rumble. You have a tier that you could pay money, but you also don't have to pay money. You can just join it, and if you do join it, if you can like and also follow us, then whenever we do streams or have new videos, new things that are going on, you'll know about it. So it doesn't cost any money, and it would be a huge support if you guys haven't signed up yet. If you can like and if you can follow us, it's great. If you're on any other platform, you feel free to do that as well. Make sure to like and subscribe or anything like that. That would be really cool.
Yeah, we
Just throwing
definitely
that out
appreciate
there.
it. Yeah.
But what were you saying? Sorry, I cut you off.
No, I think I was pretty much done there. Yeah, it's just it's ridiculous
So
that
I did
they
want to show you some of
did
these
that. Yeah.
clips we have from the Charlie Kirk. So this is one thing. Let's see what this one is. Can you see this?
Yep.
Okay, let's try this one.
Any Democrats you admire out there? Right
Again, it's not that I disagree with what Charlie Kirk is saying. It's just that I don't love that Gavin Newsom is even in a position that somebody's even talking to him. If I don't know, if I'm making sense, but you know what I'm trying to say.
You know why he's doing a podcast?
He's trying to do damage control for his image, which is in the worst position that it's ever been, and he's trying to save his career so he can run in 2028, I assume, and pretend that he's more moderate.
What do a lot of people credit
Point is
with Trump's win?
Oh, all the podcast stuff that he does,
All
yeah.
the podcasts, including Joe Rogan. Well,
Yeah,
Joe
and
Rogan's
also
not going to have Gavin Newsom on every week.
right, and the thing is that people, the left were kept saying, why don't we have a Joe Rogan? So I think that Gavin Newsom, he's like putting on a button-down shirt. It's like, dude, you're the governor. There's a crisis happening in your state, and you're thinking of your image. If I were his voters, I would get super annoyed. You know what I mean? Let's see what he says here.
Canceled school for like 2 years. One day.
The point is the point, which is you are making a damn dent.
Thank you.
He just annoys me, that Gavin Newsom.
He's infuriating.
Why is it you were able to clean it up for Xi Jinping, but
Oh,
you
that
can't
was-
clean
What?
You know,
Yeah, that's a great question.
Not that I disagree, and I'll say that at least I appreciate that. He's sort of he's very aggressively putting him in his place, but I still don't love the fact that even having this conversation is a win for Gavin Newsom, because Gavin Newsom is trying to present himself. See, I'm not just some weirdo that smiles and chuckles, some strange guy that nobody like. I'm sitting here with Charlie Kirk. I'm a middle of the road guy. I'm just hanging out. My son likes him. I'm complimenting him. I don't know how I feel about all this. Yeah, I don't think that anybody needs to be helping this guy.
Yeah.
Final
Trump's
thing,
numbers, Trump's favorability numbers are getting soft.
You said 2020.
What'd you say?
He says, Trump's favorability numbers are getting soft. Do you know what his favorability numbers were on the day he took office? 48, 46. 48 unfavorable, 46 favorable. Do you know what they are as of March 3rd? 48, 46.
Yeah.
They are exactly where they were the day he took office. Now, they were a little bit better before he took office, but they have not deviated significantly either up or down since he took office. And you want to talk about polls? They did polling of people who watched his address earlier this week, and more than 78 or 75, 76% said they approved of everything he said. They approved of his message overall during that speech. Ridiculously long as it was.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, and the Democrats certainly didn't help themselves by sitting around there looking like a bunch of sourpusses. The whole thing, I thought that he did a pretty good job with that. Let's look at this video.
Not assault rifles, but the word Latinx. They're not even serious.
You said 2020.
This Gavin Newsom guy really annoys me, and he's trying to make himself liked by more moderate people, and I'm not buying this. Professor?
No, no, not at all. No, he's a chameleon. He's going to change his spots. He's going to change what he has to say every single moment he's out there. He is got his finger in the wind trying to figure out which way it's blowing so that he can start changing his opinions and changing things so that he can be what everyone wants him to be, right? But he doesn't realize, of course, he hasn't quite grasped this idea that the internet is forever. We know
Yeah.
all the things you said before, and we can bring all of those up. We remember when you cleaned up San Francisco, when you cleaned up these, different parts of California, when you had a dignitary from China come in, you chased off all the homeless and cleaned the streets, but you can't do that for Americans, right? You can't just do that to maybe make your state a more livable place. Of course not. No.
And then you have this thing here.
Equally insane that people are boycotting Bud Light.
Yeah, I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't know how I feel about all this. I honestly, I don't think. I'm trying to think who benefited from this thing. And you know what? I don't think that Charlie Kirk benefited in any way. I think that only
no.
Gavin Newsom benefits from a meeting like this. Now, I'll give Charlie Kirk the credit. At least he sat there and he was, he was holding his feet to the fire. He wasn't, he. I'll just do this last one here. It's not that he wasn't saying good things to him, and he held his ground and he spoke well. It's just like, I don't even know why anybody's engaging with this guy. Anything you engage with
How
him,
about the book?
you're offering. He has more to gain than anybody else by making this podcast happen, and not sure that anybody needs to give him the time of day. Personally,
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. No one needs to be giving him any attention at all
I agree. Yeah.
Bad
whatsoever.
stuff. On a serious note, 4,200
I think that this guy deserves the time of day. I am not happy with all of this personally. That's just my.
Yeah,
Oh, is
yeah,
this the transgender thing? This is the final one, and I'll leave it. Yeah, I don't know. All
yeah.
of this annoys me. That's all I
It,
can say.
he is right in on one thing, saying these poor people, they're more likely to commit suicide, more likely to have depression. I'm sorry, but I think you are mixing up correlation and causation in that particular situation there, Governor.
Right. Also, because people may be feeling bad or depressed, it doesn't mean you have to endanger young women that and say, okay, this man is going to do boxing and box you with you now because we don't want to hurt his feelings. That doesn't work either. So
Or that perhaps the transgenderism was not the cause of the depression and anxiety and all of those things. Maybe it was the other way around.
Istophobo says the man has no humble opinion. I agree with you. And then I guess Phantom Monk said on the Rumble side he's slick. I agree. Slick is a good way. Also, even his hair is slick. Let me
Yeah.
see what Istophobo
There
is saying.
there's a few other things they were bringing. They were talking about somebody mentioned Mary White was asking a 70% favorability for the speech. It was 76% that said in a CBS News poll that they had positive approval for the president's speech the other night, the joint speech to Congress. They were talking about the book bans, talking about what's pornography, and it goes back. Yeah, we have the old Supreme Court definition. Well, I don't know what it is, but I'll know it when I see it, kind of a thing. I can't define it, but I'll know when I see it. But I have actually seen some of these books, and some of them absolutely do not belong in libraries in elementary schools. Literally, not photographs, but drawings, depictions of nude figures, sometimes of interacting with genitalia in different ways. That kind of thing does not belong in a children's library where they would have free access to that. If a parent wants to buy that for their kids, I guess that's their choice. It doesn't mean that book, you say book ban. It's not like that book doesn't exist. It's still available to be purchased. It's still out there in the public. It still can be found in any number of different sources. Simply saying that you don't want that material freely available to children to potentially discover unsupervised in a public library is very different from a book ban. So yeah, they keep saying, "Oh, book bans, book bans, book bans." We're not saying collect those books and throw them on a fire. That's not what the Moms for Liberty or some of these other groups are saying. They're simply saying that placing books that have this kind of graphic imagery, some of them, I know there's one of the books that was trying to be banned at a local school district that I saw. And the people were complaining there's no graphic imagery in it, whatever. I saw some of the passages in the book. There were passages in this book that is ostensibly for young, for young adults and for kids as young as 10 years old, uh, graphically describing grape. Okay. Uh,
Okay.
that's not acceptable for a book for a 10-year-old kid. That's disturbing material.
That's fair enough.
So, it's not quote unquote pornography, but it's material that does not. I mean, if a parent thinks that that's appropriate for their child and thinks they need to read that, they can provide that to their child. They can still find that book elsewhere. It's just not going to be available to them freely in a children's public library. It's wild.
So there's this video that I remember watching, and I don't remember. I saw this. I was like really tired already, and I saw this maybe a week or two ago when Gavin Newsom announced his stupid podcast. There was this thing, and I recall that it made me chuckle, but I couldn't. Maybe I was just tired. But let's see what it is. It's only a minute and 23 seconds. Some comedian called Danny Polishuk that made this video. Are you with me?
Okay.
You asked America, and I listened, so welcome to the Gavin Newsom podcast. I know no one actually asked for this, and they'd prefer I do my actual job instead of whatever the hell this is, but everyone knows I march to the beat of my own drum, which is why when I locked everyone down during COVID, I still went to fancy restaurants that you poor losers couldn't even afford to work at, let alone eat at. I appreciate the poor optics of another podcast hosted by a straight white male, but the world needs this now more than ever. And from what I've read online, most people don't consider me straight or a man anyhow. Have I made mistakes as governor? Not really. Actually, no. I have never made a mistake ever. I guess banging my campaign manager's wife could be viewed as a mistake, except hypergamy is a very common lifestyle in California. Some people like to say I was asleep at the wheel, which made the LA fire substantially more devastating. But again, I haven't made any mistakes. Also, aren't you amazed how little I'm using my hands while I talk? My aides told me the way I talk makes me look like a complete psychopath. So I'm doing my best to talk like a normal person right now. Plus, I'm not a psychopath, just a sociopath. Those are two very different things. Oops, I'm doing it again. Old habits die hard. Don't tell that to my new campaign manager, though. Just kidding. Or am I?
If you like that, make sure to subscribe and follow for more.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Follow and subscribe to Danny's perfect content.
Whoever did this, I don't know the guy. I think that if occasionally I see something in my feed that this guy does, I thought that was kind of amusing, to be honest.
That is pretty funny.
How do you
right on point too.
Is that all with AI? Because man, AI is getting better.
Yeah, and if you have some really good source material to work with to train your model, if he really sat and talked to the camera like that for a few minutes, right? At the start of his podcast, you'd have a really solid set of material to train your model, along with the voice and everything to make that to work pretty well. So. Yeah, it all really comes down to what training material you have to build that stuff. Whenever you're using AI.
Hey, Matt Cat, how's it going?
Hey there, Matt. How you doing?
I feel like Matt. Sometimes he says hi, but I think sometimes he lurks. But I don't have an issue with that. Matt's a friend, and he can say something or not say something. It's all up to him. In any case, Murrockstra says, this time on Rumble, all humor is rooted in truth. That's why it's funny. I agree. He's a New York City comedian. That's what the big ship said. I thought that was well done. That's all I can say. That I thought that was good.
Yeah.
I saw it, and I even I think I bookmarked it, and I'm like, okay, this is kind of funny, and yeah, I was already really tired. It was like the final thing before I fell asleep. Like I bookmarked it. You know what? Happy I did. I think it was funny. So
Yeah,
it
that was
didn't
pretty good. I
disappoint.
like that.
And yeah, Istophobos wrote a message to me that it was important, for Charlie Kirk to go and to push back and to sort of humiliate Gavin on his own show. And I said myself, I think that Charlie Kirk handled himself well. He did push back on all these things. I think Gavin Newsom, it's not that he looks great from this, but the fact that he even makes it seem like he's trying to have a conversation with him, that he's trying to kind of be more middle of the road, I don't even like that. Especially in his case, that guy just doesn't rub me personally the right way. So I'm not enthusiastic. The thing is, now with this podcast, he's going to want all these kind of people to come there, and,
Yeah.
and he's only trying to put himself. He's doing this for a reason,
Oh,
and what
absolutely.
and whatever reason this is a reason that I don't prefer. I'm going to say this. I've said before, on like a broken record, that I consider myself even politically very middle of the road. Especially I used to be more, I guess, middle of the road. It's hard to be middle of the road these days, and there aren't many politicians that I look at them and think, "Wow, like I really hope this guy isn't the next president." And for me, Gavin Newsom, I would hope that he wouldn't be. Anything that sort of gives him support and legitimizes him and makes him seem like a swell guy. I don't prefer any of that, but that's just my opinion.
Yep. I don't think I can imagine. I mean, well, I can imagine worse. One of those ladies doing that incredibly cringe choose your fighter video. Any of them would definitely be worse. But not by a lot. Gavin Newsom would be a disaster as president.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah, I agree. Anyhow,
I
you're
think
not.
we missed a super chat, buddy.
We did. Where?
Yeah,
Where did we?
the Dead Man. We sent us one. We read his first one, the "What's the problem?" But he sent us another one. I think we missed that earlier. So,
Oh,
do
I'm
you?
so sorry, the dead
That's all right.
man.
Yeah, I missed it too. So, yeah.
Let me share it. The dead man. I hope you're still here. We should be quicker in picking these up. So yeah, so basically, it's a big club, and you and I are not in the big club. It's kind of like, I think, what George Carlin used to say, that it's what is it that he used to say? There's a club and you're not invited. Like it's an
Yeah.
exclusive club and you're not invited, or something along those lines. So yeah, so thank you, the dead man. Thank you for the $5 super chat. I hope you're still here, and I apologize that it took us a few minutes to notice it. Matt Cat says that he thinks that Newscum is a lizard person.
He may very well be. You scratch his face real good. You see some of that mask pull back, and yeah.
So, yeah, thank you so much, the dead man. I
Yeah, we
appreciate
appreciate
it.
it.
Here, Eraserhead says it's a big club and you ain't in it. Something like that. And I think that's what the dead man meant. If you meant something else, you can send like a follow-up message here if you're still around. And yeah, I think that's how I felt about the Charlie Kirk thing. I was surprised when Gavin Newsom said he was doing the podcast. I was surprised that somebody actually showed up to his podcast, but it is what it is. I guess now we have a few other things to discuss. For starters, I want to mention last time when we were talking about Daredevil, I told you that I met this actress once. What was her name? Nikki M. James.
Yeah.
This is of no interest to anybody, but since they like hearing weird stories from me, then I am gonna actually say it's an encounter that has no significance, but I will. Well, let me find something. Uh, where is she? So her name is Nikki M. James. Let me find this thing. Share this tab instead. You got this tab?
Yeah, I can see it.
Oh, okay, okay. So basically, what happened is that 10 years ago, I went to I told you and I've said this many times, there was a time that I was invited to kind of trendy cocktail parties that were industry related, or sometimes it would be like a premiere of a movie that then had those kind of cocktail parties, like the one that the Deadpool creator wasn't invited to. So I was I was for a while invited to them, then I wasn't anymore. Then I became like the Deadpool guy, where like I always say they fixed the glitch. I feel like I probably went to an event and somebody's just at the end said, "Why is this guy here?" And none of these events, I don't feel like people really embraced me or liked me. So one time I went to an event. This was about 10 years ago, and I didn't really know a lot of people. And again, there's people there that sometimes it would be like even real kind of very known celebrities. In many cases, those very known celebrities, they're kind of in their own clique. They're not hanging out or talking with me or whatever. It's nothing personal, you know. I'm not trying to say anything bad. They don't owe me that, but there would often be, you know, sometimes I don't want to say some are snobbier than others. I don't know. I'm not trying to throw everybody under the bus. In any case, I was sitting at some table, and some lady was sitting next to me, and I didn't recognize her. And apparently, and I guess maybe other people had gone by and said something, and maybe she said to me, she was big on Broadway. This Nikki M. James girl, lady, whatever, she was big on Broadway. She had done some plays, and that's all she had done at that point. She wasn't like in movies and stuff. Part of the reason she probably sat there and there weren't like a million people talking to her, because I think that the people that were there didn't really. I'm not saying they don't know Broadway, but I don't think that. I think that the average person there just didn't know who she was. I didn't either. And she had to tell me, oh, I was like in this play and that play and whatever it is. And then I just sat and talked to her. And the lore story I'm going to tell you that I told you the other day, that she said something, told me a naughty story. I don't know if to say it's a naughty story, but I'll explain what happened. Basically, I name drop because I really don't know in situations like this what to do. I do my best to mingle. There was an actress that I'd met somewhere that had been like on Broadway. And I figured that if I say the name of this actress that I met, that this lady would know her. So I said, "Hey, you know, I met this other lady. She's in Broadway and blah, blah. She was in this play or I don't know what." And it was kind of a me seeming cool. But you know, Professor, you know what this lady told me? This Nikki James said.
What?
So I told her the name of the person, and she's like, "Oh, her? You know, she walks around without underwear. She never wears underwear." I'm like, she doesn't. I didn't notice. I didn't. No, it's common knowledge. It's gross. She doesn't wear any underwear. I'm like, okay. And the reason why, because it was so bizarre, because you know, I'm just trying to make I'm just trying to make small talk. I just threw out a name, you know what I mean? Like the underwear story, it stuck with me. So that's what she said to me, that the lady never wore. She's like, she never wears underwear. It's like, how do you know? How do you know she doesn't wear underwear? It was such a strange conversation. And for some reason, see, I told you that I thought she gave me your email. I actually looked through my, you know, some of my emails or old emails. I couldn't find an email. I vaguely recall. I thought I used to have a very good memory. I vaguely recall that she gave me your email, but I am not sure. I'm not 100% sure at this point. I'm 90% sure that I had her email at some point. I don't even know if I ever emailed her. But the underwear story, that's what I remember from this whole situation.
Hmm. Okay. Okay.
So that's what I got. And now she's on Daredevil.
Now she's on Daredevil.
You know what? If at the time she was on Daredevil, I probably would have been nicer. I would have been more excited. Like that would have scored the points. You know what I mean? Maybe I would have sent her some emails. Like she could like seriously, Daredevil. That's a huge. You know.
No, it is. Yeah, that is huge. Yeah,
Yeah, and I think that Daredevil already existed at that time. I believe it came out. When did Daredevil come out? Was it in 2012, 13? When did it come out? The first season.
uh, when did that come out? On the Netflix series started in 2015.
2015. So that would be, not. I think around that time I met this lady. But again,
Yeah.
to just point out, because people are saying in the chat, she wasn't saying that Nikki, doesn't wear underwear. She was saying that the other actress that I met, that the other actress doesn't wear underwear, and that it was gross. But I had so little knowledge. Like, I felt like I was so out of my element, and I had no idea what was being said to me. It was some other actress that I once met. It's not like she was my friend. You know what I mean? I was just trying to make small talk, really. So that's what I
That's
remember.
funny.
That when I saw the Daredevil and I saw this actress, I remember I'm like, is that the underwear lady? And and it is absolutely her. Because when I told you last time, didn't she used to be in plays? And then we looked, and she was in a bunch of plays.
Mhm.
Let's
Yeah.
see if even this says. Uh, See, originated the role of Nabalungi in the Book of Mormon. Haven't seen that, although I heard that's good because it's, the creators of South Park made that, but I haven't seen it. For which she won a Tony Award. Okay, that makes sense. She recently starred in Tony Kushner's A Bright Room Called Day at the Public Theater. Nikki was born and raised in New Jersey, fell in love with theater. With the encouragement of her parents, she began her professional career at age 13, appearing in commercials, attended blah, blah, blah. She made her Broadway debut. It's like I said, I think that most of her career has been in theater. Now, this Daredevil thing is actually something that's not common on a resume. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, her thing prior to this Daredevil appearance was mainly theater. She's mainly known for being a Broadway actress and theater.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
She's a lovely woman, and I've really enjoyed her so far in the first couple of episodes of
she
this
didn't
of
bother
this
me. She
new
didn't
season.
bother me.
Yeah, I think
I
she's done well.
still wonder. I the thing that I thought to myself is that you always hear that, like, in the theater, they're kind of snobby, and there's a lot of elbow pushing there. I wonder if that's the reason why she told me the story with the underwear and the lady, because I feel like it wasn't a true story. It almost felt like, and she didn't seem like she was kidding. So I almost feel like that was part of the vibe of Broadway. I just don't really hang out with Broadway people, so I don't know.
I'm surprised. I figured you would have been hanging out with Broadway people all the time, Price.
Sounds like you were pretty young and naive at the time. I wasn't young and naive. I was just, listen, you go to these events, and I would try my best to kind of fit in. You know what I mean? I often felt like I was the odd man out at these type of events. I'm not even quite sure how there was suddenly a situation where I was even invited to them. I do think I know, but it's not. I felt out of place at some of these events. I could do a hello, hello, and nod my head and do things like that, but I don't know. It's difficult to get into, like, deep conversations, and some of these people, are kind of weirdos. I'm a weirdo myself, but a different kind of weirdo, I guess.
Yeah. Um. Um. One of your favorites in the chat, I have nude dick, wants to know how many members of the Illuminati have you met?
I don't know. I mean, they didn't tell me that that's what they were members of, so I wouldn't know. I have no idea. But no, I mean, I would go to these kind of cocktail parties. I told you this once, and this is probably, I've said it a number of times. Once I was at a one of those cocktail things, and it was after some kind of premiere, and I was standing next to Kristen Wiig, and I talked to her for a few minutes, and she was actually she seemed to me rather nice. That's why, like, whenever her name comes up or somebody says something, at least, like, in my memory banks, I had, like, a conversation that seemed very pleasant, and she actually seemed rather likable in person. It has to give her some points, you know.
Sure. Sure.
She didn't seem like all snobby and whatever, and I had given her a compliment, a mild one, but there was something that I had seen with her. Really long story, but I said, "Hey, you were good in this thing and that thing," and it was a very kind of pleasant and honest conversation, and I kind of liked her vibe. I didn't dislike her, so that's all I can say. I don't know. Sometimes you meet people that are nice. Sometimes you meet people that aren't nice. I've seen both of those happen.
Yeah. Well, I don't have great stories to tell of my brushes with
Phantom outside of
with fame.
Price of Reason Live tries to blend in, but being orange makes it hard. I was like, I looked relatively like a regular person. uh, don't hang out with the Broadway people. They literally hang out with nobodies. I don't know what that was all about. See, I at the end, it could be that this could be a big joke that this lady was joking something about that underwear, but I didn't feel like she was joking, and then I just felt kind of strange. I didn't dress like Darkman. Just so you know, these events that I'm talking about, I am a regular person. Look like a somewhat regular person. It is rather interesting. When I think about it, it's almost surreal, some of these situations I was in, but, like I said, it gave me a lot of insight as to things going on. Very educational. Very educational. And I think that even in, like, a brief conversation where you kind of are in the same room with somebody and you feel their vibe, you can kind of tell what you think about them or how you feel about them. You know what I mean? It's not 100%. It's not like I can say, well, because I felt the vibe of this person and talked to him for a few minutes, then I can just say if they're good or bad. But you certainly feel some kind of vibe when you talk to somebody. And I can usually, like, draw some kind of opinion of what I think of the person, a more accurate one after, I have a little more interaction with them. Marla Sharendorf says,
Yeah.
"I'm happy with who I am." Yeah, I'm happy with
Well, that's
who I
good.
am as well. I don't. I think that at the time, for different reasons, also it had to do with business and maybe just you go to a place like this and you don't want to be the odd man out. Maybe I wasn't as maybe vocal as I am here on this stream with you, Professor. But also, one of these people starts talking to me. I can't like not every conversation that we're having now I could exactly have with them there.
Oh yeah.
I wasn't as vocal, I suppose. I was just kind of absorbing it and learning the material. Sometimes I would have a conversation with somebody, but all these people at their event, like at the event, they don't care about me. I'm the least important person in the room, probably. I mean, okay, that's not an accurate thing to say. I feel in my world that I'm very important, but in terms of like industry and whatever was going on, in some cases, I'm sure I was the least important in the room. That's fine. That's fine, though. I mean, just even being a part of the surreal thing was interesting. So that was it. I gave a little lore, and
There you go.
and then now we can go into Mickey 17.
Yeah. So I guess you got to see this.
I got to see Mickey 17.
Okay. It's definitely one that sort of an independent thing that it kind of, I saw the trailers for it and I thought, I don't know, this looks like maybe it could be an interesting story or it just could be a total dud. I'm not really sure. It definitely gave me some Moon vibes. I assume you've seen Moon.
I don't. I actually haven't. I
Oh, you
don't
know
think
that
I have.
okay, it's Sam Rockwell. Where he is this lone man stationed on the moon who's has to uh sort of maintain this station where they're mining the moon for helium-3, I think, whatever, for like fuel for engines, space engines, rocket engines. And he's kind of up on the moon by himself. And Kevin Spacey is the is the voice of the robot that's like his that he sticks with up in this station on the moon. Anyway, I'm not going to spoil it. It's a fantastic movie if you haven't seen it. It
Oh, maybe I'll
really
have to check it out.
it really is. It's very very good, and Sam Rockwell's fantastic in it.
I
Yeah.
will have to check that out, definitely. Uh, but what else say about this movie? By the way, did the dead man return? I really genuinely feel bad that we didn't see his super chat when he sent it. Hope he's still around with us. That'll happen sometimes. You know, we're on a few different platforms. Sometimes it takes us a minute to find the super chats, but we do get
Yeah.
get to them eventually.
Yeah, and it's frustrating because the streaming platform that we're using
We love
doesn't.
everything, but sometimes we
Yeah.
just have to juggle the balls.
Yeah, well, it doesn't actually highlight the super chats for us from
It's
YouTube,
part
so
of our
yeah,
setup, and
yeah,
we're getting better at it all the time. At the end of the day, you know, we do our best to find them, and I take responsibility, dead man. That
yeah,
took
it's
us a minute, but we'll definitely be more on alert in the future.
yeah.
And then, so this movie. Now, what happened was there was that movie Parasite, and then you had the director called I always get his name wrong. I'm gonna call him like Bong Joon Ho, June
I think that's right.
Bong Joon Ho, June Bong Ho. You know what? I'll make
Yeah, yeah, it's
Bong Joon Ho. Yeah,
Bong
but
Joon-ho, yeah,
you think to yourself, what is it really called? Like Bong Ho? Like
yeah,
that's that's a name. Yeah, that he's Bong Joon Ho.
mhm.
So I mean, yeah, somebody says he's director Bong. He is indeed a director, and his name is Bong,
Yeah,
which is fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the Bong.
yeah. Well, and in Asian tradition, that Bong would that not be his that would be his family name. His individual name is, would be Jun-ho. So,
Right.
yeah, he would be director Bong.
Director Bong, yeah. He is the big Bong. The big Bong theory. In any case, so the guy, he did Parasite. He won his Oscar, and then I guess Hollywood came along and said, "Hey, we want to give you like $118 million to make a bigger budget movie." So we made this movie with Robert Pattinson called Mickey 17. What happens in this movie is that we start off and we're seeing it from like the perspective of Robert Pattinson's character. I think is called Mickey. Apparently, initially when he's on Earth, he runs into some trouble, with loans and some, criminal guy and things like that, and he ends up sort of being recruited to some kind of mission that they take you off the planet into space. And the reason he did that is that he wanted to avoid, that those guys that he owed money to and that he was sort of in danger. So he thought this would be a good idea. The only catch is, in order to be part of this mission, he had to sign up for a program that basically allows them to kill him and then like recreate him using like a 3D printer and like transferring his consciousness from one version of him to the other. And apparently he agreed to this, and that's where the movie starts. That you see that, like, every time there's a different him and he dies, and then there's another one and another one, another one. And I guess like we reach the point, like, within the first 30 minutes or something, it shows how it all builds up and all this stuff's happening. At the end, there's like what's called Mickey 17, the 17th version of himself. Now, there's some kind of malfunction, and it's not really a spoiler because if you watch the commercial, you'll see like the trailer. Everything that I'm saying is in there for good and for bad. So after about 17 times, suddenly there's some kind of malfunction. I don't want to go into the details of it, but at the end of the day, there's now two of him, which creates a problem because there's not supposed to be two. Like,
Mhm.
that's considered a no-no that there would be two of him. So now there's two of him, and this creates some kind of issue. Meanwhile, Mark Ruffalo, in one of the worst acting performances that I've seen in a long time,
No, that's
cementing the fact that Mark Ruffalo is indeed a mediocre actor, just as I've always suspected.
yeah, I was gonna say that sounds like par for the course.
I've always thought he's overrated. I mean, the truth is, it's not only because, listen, it doesn't help that in real life, I think he's annoying. He's really, really annoying in real life. I never felt that he was such a spectacular actor. If anything, he's one of those people that are like, well, he's semi likable. You don't hate him, but first of all, in real life, he's so unlikable that I just can't even. The likable card doesn't work, and he doesn't have the acting chops either, in my opinion. I don't know. They've nominated him before. I don't know for what. I honestly think that this guy is not a good actor, and this thing that required him to be this villain, he really, really doesn't do it well. People were saying that he tried to make it like he's a Trump character. I don't know if he was trying to be a Trump or not. If he was trying to be a Trump, he wasn't convincing. I think they needed, if they wanted a real villain in the story, to bring somebody British who, with every kind of word that he says, you feel how menacing and kind of serious he is as a villain. Mark Ruffalo, I couldn't take him seriously, and his acting was absolutely awful. I wouldn't just say that. I wouldn't say that if it's not true. Meaning, there's the movie The Adam Project with Ryan Reynolds. I thought he was okay in that movie. There's movies that I look at him, even if I'm not a big fan of his, I think he's just okay in them. This is not that case. He is awful. His acting is awful. And when you have a villain that you can't even take seriously, that the acting feels like, community theater, it's really a problem for the movie. So he's the number one problem of the movie for me. The other
Okay.
thing is, I'm going to be honest with you. It sounds like an idea that this Mr. Bong had on paper that sounded good, but somehow when you watch it on screen, it doesn't unfold in a way that really grabs me, and it doesn't help overall casting. I'm trying to think of any real good casting this movie had, and honestly, I can't really think of much. Next to Mark Wahlberg, you have Toni Collette. She's good. She's a good actress. She's a good character actress. But you know what? She didn't do anything so special with her character. I feel like she was better than Mark Ruffalo. Hands down, she's a much better actress than him. But didn't do anything that really wowed me. You had Naomi Aki, who is known to most people from Rise of Skywalker, as what's her name? You know what the funny thing is? I can't even fucking remember her name in Rise of Skywalker. Sorry, Sean. Can you remember who Naomi Aki played in Rise of Skywalker?
Oh.
What was her name? What was that character's name? You know what I'm talking about. She was a black woman that Finn met. Can't remember her name.
No, I.
Come on, this was Kathleen Kennedy's big moment. Who is that character? I don't even remember her name. I can't remember her name. Don't Google.
Stormtrooper bitch.
Don't
I
don't
seriously
Google.
have no freaking idea.
Chat. Does anybody remember the Naomi Aki's character's
I
name?
mean, I remember which character you're talking about. I don't remember her freaking name.
Okay, she arrives. It's the one that I think they wanted Lando to say that she's his daughter.
Yeah,
but then
yeah, it's that
they
one.
cut that out of the movie, so he's just sitting there and looks like he's hitting on her, and nobody knows why.
Yeah, he's hitting on a girl that's
like a third of his age, and nobody understands why. I mean, Billy D. Williams is smooth, but maybe that was a bit too smooth. You know what I mean? I can't remember her name. Janice, Janet,
I looked
Janelle?
it up. I can tell you.
All right, look it up. Is it Janice?
It's Jana.
Jana. Man, I was
Jana.
close.
Yeah, you're
Man, I
right.
was close.
I had no freaking clue.
I was so close,
Literally
Professor.
good.
So close. So yeah,
No clue at all.
can you share the picture that you found of her? I just want to show anybody who I'm talking about. They probably think I'm crazy. I was so close with Janice. Now, to be fair, she's not the worst actress. I don't think she's a terrible actress. But you know what? And I'm going to be... I don't want to get into trouble here. There are actresses that I like better than her.
Sure.
I mean,
That's
she was
fair.
also supposed to...
That's
She
fair.
was supposed to be something of a love interest to Robert Pattinson's character. First of all, Robert Pattinson himself, I'm not his biggest fan. I understand that the Twilight movies, he can act better than he did in those movies. And he's been in movies like Tenet and, a few different things where you could see that he has a bit more skill than what you're seeing there. But to tell you that I've ever really been a fan of Pattinson, not really. In addition, I feel like this character, this Mickey character, he's trying to have, it's not exactly a Boston accent, but he's trying to have a very specific kind of American accent. And I don't think he pulls that off well at all. Like, I think that if there were roles where he's speaking with an actual his real natural, like, like an Englishman or whatever it is, I think that probably those roles suit him more. When he's trying to speak English with an American accent, I don't love it. And yeah, I don't love this movie. I don't love him in it. I'll give him credit. He has to play two roles. He's better than Amanda Stenberg. You know what I mean? He's not.
Sure.
He's not like Osha and May. He really is playing different versions and different whatever. He's doing a pretty decent job. It's not that I looked at it and thought, oh, this guy is a disaster as an actor. But at the same time, he's also not the type of actor that I'm like, oh, Robert Pattinson is a movie. I'm dropping everything to go see this movie. He's not that kind of actor. You know what I mean? Not for me, at least. And Naomi Aki as his love interest also, it didn't fully work for me. I mean, and they also kind of made her like a girl boss in addition to it, which is also a bit annoying. Uh, the only thing I could say out of the cast that I kind of liked was Stephen Ewan, who is from The Walking Dead. He played Glenn on Walking Dead. I like that guy.
Yeah.
That guy I like. That's a good actor. I like that guy. And he was, out of all the actors that I mentioned, he was the least in the movie. He showed up like for a few key scenes, and like you barely even saw him in the movie. When he was on screen, I thought, oh, that guy's a good actor. I like him. And
Yeah,
then he disappeared.
Stephen Yeun. Yeah. He's
I think
good.
I like that guy. I think that he brings some kind of like a grounded something that's good. And to be fair, maybe if Robert Pattinson was speaking in his own natural accent, it would have been smoother. He's trying to do quirky American accent thing, and it just annoyed me. I don't know why it kept annoying me. Like, I have no right to be annoyed, but it annoyed me. And the other thing I'll tell you, after like 30 minutes, I was starting to get bored. There was a minute, I admit, that there was like maybe 60 seconds or something in this movie that my eyes really were starting to close. And then I quickly, like, I had like, a caffeinated drink, and I had some chocolate with me. I'm like, quick, eat chocolate and drink this caffeine. Maybe like you won't fall asleep. I was really struggling. That's never a good sign that like they're already copying and they're not copying. And I'm like, I don't even care. You know what I mean? It's just something about this movie doesn't capture me. Now, in addition to it, there's also this element that there's these creatures on this planet, and I guess the people, Mark Ruffalo, he wants to colonize this planet. Some people are saying they kind of made him like Trump. I don't know. He wants to colonize this planet with these creatures. The creatures I thought were interesting, and the idea of these creatures there, I didn't dislike the idea of them coming to this planet and having creatures there. There was probably a much better movie here, but somehow the thing doesn't work. And if it's supposed to be funny, it doesn't make me laugh at all. I was mostly annoyed. I just, when I looked at it at the end, I thought to myself, I can't say that it's a complete failure of a movie. It's competently directed. Some actors that are not Mark Ruffalo put in decent performances here, and it's stylish. It has its own kind of vibe and atmosphere, and I can respect that at least the guy didn't take some comic book. It seems kind of. I think he didn't take a comic book. I think it's original, right?
Mhm.
Can we check? I think this is like an original. Who wrote this thing?
Or actually, I think it might be based on a book.
Oh.
Actually,
Let's see. I'm going to check this now. Oh, it's a novel by Edward Ashton.
yeah, that's what I had thought I had seen, that it was based on.
I didn't read the novel. I don't know if it's a good novel. The novel was called Mickey 7. This is called Mickey 17. I have no idea. I didn't read the source material. All I know is that I just didn't think that I just didn't think that the story grabbed me enough. And there was something that they were trying to juggle here between his cloning, Mark Ruffalo's kind of quote unquote tyranny, and these creatures on the planet. I felt like the movie was rather long. It didn't find a really great balance between them. And the worst part was like, you know how sometimes, I'm going to give you an example. You know how you're watching like Back to the Future 1 and everything is just so smooth, like, going from one place to another in such a smooth way with the writing. There's like the exposition is done really nicely. Then he's in the past. It's all just going from scene to scene. It's like such an organic flow. This is like the opposite. Every scene I felt was very forced. It's like, okay, as if somebody said, okay, how do I bring these characters to here? Okay, we'll do this so they'll be here. Okay, we'll do this so they'll be here. But if it feels so clinical and that's something that I felt while watching it, then something isn't working for me. It just seems like, either convenient or clinical or both. With actors, no actor here is really luring me in and and bringing me in, to make me feel like this movie has any kind of heart. Robert Pattinson certainly isn't. Naomi Aki, good character actress, but not really drawing me in either. Ruffalo and Colette don't do the job. Really, there's not a lot to work with here. And yeah, I guess that's my final verdict here. The
Yeah.
movie the movie is not the worst movie I've seen. It's competently made, and for people that like science fiction, if they see it, there's certain elements and aspect of it that are possible to enjoy. But at the end of the day, and the movie, I wouldn't say that this is like a good, really good movie or great movie or even a very good movie. It's at best a somewhat okay movie.
Some of what I've read about it kind of leads me to believe that the original story, as I understand, was very focused on Mickey as the central character, trying to survive on this new world while they try and get a colony up and running. Uh, from what I can tell, there's almost none of the environmentalist message, of all the class warfare stuff, where you've got you're talking about the politician who's like a tyrant who wants to, played rather poorly as usual. Uh, by Mark Ruffalo. And so that some of that stuff I think sounds like that was the kind of thing that was inserted by the director, by Bong Joon-ho, because those are
Maybe.
also the types of things he's put in his other films, right? There's always environmentalism and class warfare and stuff.
Class
It's always
warfare and like the government and corruption, whatever.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
fine. You know what? And I will say this: if there was at least an actor that played that villain convincingly, maybe you could have gotten away with it. Mark Ruffalo, if there's ever like a Razzie, those Razzies, hands down on the spot, I give him a Razzie. That is, and it's not because I think he's annoying in real life. If his performance was great, I tell you it's great. Listen, Meryl Streep in real life, if I had a conversation with her, would probably annoy me. But when she's on screen doing a role, I can't say the lady can't act. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Even let's say somebody like Robert De Niro, who I think is super annoying. It's not like I think if he's in a movie, he doesn't know what acting is. Even however I feel about his comment, there's certainly plenty of actors like that I can, no shortage of them. In this case, though, it's not like I'm like thinking, okay, I'm separating. I'll give you an example. Javier Bardem is a guy with very kind of extreme and strange views, from what I recall. But however I may feel about his views or whatever it is that he talks about in his private life, which is usually dumb and stupid, if he's in a movie, he's usually a good actor. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Sure.
not that I usually see him on screen and like think, oh, he's not giving a good performance, except for maybe The Little Mermaid. That it looks like the look on his face is like, how do I get out of here? I need to cash the check that I was given in the bank, and I need to leave this set immediately. That's what his face looks like throughout Little Mermaid. But I can't really blame him for that. But I guess what
Well,
I'm saying is that it's not because I don't prefer his antics in real life. I think Mark Ruffalo is terrible in this movie, like laughably bad performance. That maybe somebody else will watch it and say, "What are you talking about?" I think he's great, and that's fine. My personal opinion is that is probably his worst performance to date. One of the worst performances I've seen in a while. One of the worst performances as a villain that I've seen in a while. And if I were him and that was like part of my reel, I would work to delete that from my reel. I'd be embarrassed.
I will say the screenshots that I've seen of him in it, he looks idiotic too. Like his whole like the way they made him up and his costume and everything. He looks like a dork.
I mean, listen, sometimes you have people that you can make them look kind of buffoonish, but at the same time, you know what? If they wanted a buffoon that could sort of, convince you that he's complete buffoon and you're supposed to actually laugh if it was supposed to be funny, Will Ferrell would have done a better job. John C. Reilly. Forget. You
Sure.
know what? I'm removing Will Ferrell. John C. Reilly has this balance. He knows how to do comedy and drama. If you wanted a guy that could get into it, that he could really like kind of dig deep and be dark, but then kind of be funny and kind of cynical and weird, I think John C. Reilly would have knocked this role out of the park. and would have added a little bit of levity if the guy was supposed to be a buffoon. Mark Ruffalo isn't a strong enough comedic actor to play the bumbling buffoon leader in a way that's convincing. And in the parts when he's supposed to like be more evil, I don't buy him either. So basically, I don't buy him. That's all I can say. Like, if there's a score,
Yeah.
somebody was asking what's the score for the movie. It's something in the 60s. I have to think about it because I want to really give, a more. I'm going to do a review about it. I want to think about it. But I will say this: 5 to 10 points drop from this movie because of Ruffalo. Not just him being in it, which is annoying. I'm saying like his performance in it lowers the score of this movie. But that's
yeah.
somebody.
And honestly, that can happen. I don't think that's unfair to say that, I enjoyed this performance and the story was working well, but this actor completely took me out of the movie, ruined the film with their performance. That that happens, right?
But I
I
was
mean,
happy. I was happy that I had this feeling of like I knew it. You know what I mean? Like I've always suspected that he's not a real actor, and then he's like, oh, like doing this villain thing, and all I thought to myself, like, I knew it.
he sucks. I knew
Just
it.
as I suspected, just as I always suspected. I mean, maybe
That's
there's
funny.
some things he can do. Like there was a movie that he was like with Reese Witherspoon, where she was a ghost or something. He was all right in that. Again, Reese Witherspoon really did the heavy lifting in that. I like her, and I liked her in that movie. That was a dumb movie. I'm embarrassed that I watched that movie. That was a movie probably like only women and me watched. I think it was called Just Like Heaven. Did you ever watch that?
It sounds familiar.
Was it called Just Like Heaven?
Yeah. Yeah. Just like have Reese Witherspoon, Mark Ruffalo. Yeah. No, I don't think I've seen this. It's familiar though.
Let me see if I can find it. Okay, it's this movie right here. It had like a rotten score. Not that it even matters because I don't care about Rotten Tomatoes, but let me see
Yeah.
if I can find this thing. Just Like Heaven. Bong Joon-ho, Mary White says, Bong Joon-ho says Mark Ruffalo's Mickey 17 villain isn't a Trump parody. Whatever it is, if it's supposed to be Trump, it's bad acting. If it's supposed to be a parody, it's not funny. If you wanted, like I said, John C. Reilly, if you wanted that villain, would have been perfection. Goofy enough in spots that you don't take him seriously, but suddenly with a mean streak that you're like, wow, this guy is really doing crappy things, maybe you accept him. This is that movie, which basically laid on the shoulder of Reese Witherspoon. That's the truth. You could have plugged in anybody except for like Mark Ruffalo in there, and they probably would have been just okay. It really the reason why I kind of like this movie, it's about I'm embarrassed. I'm really, really embarrassed that I even watched it. Well, Caleb Price has one of the embarrassments you never want to admit and talk about. I know, but I'll tell you what happened. Back in the day, there was like a Blockbuster Video next to me or something like that. This was during the final days of like Blockbuster Video, I think. And at the time, they had this deal where you pay like a flat fee and you can take as many movies. They were trying to compete with what was happening with like what's
Yeah,
to say with Netflix.
with Netflix, yeah.
They were starting to compete, then trying anything they can to still stay in the mix or whatever it is. And what happened is that I had an opportunity to just take out a bunch of movies, and it's each time there's something else. It's not like with streaming. Oh, I'm going to watch this. I'm going to watch that. Whatever they have in stock. You take a few movies and you go. Now I like Reese Witherspoon. I've always thought she's cool, and I kind of like her. I didn't know anything about this movie or what it was about, but maybe I understood maybe from the maybe I don't know. Maybe there was enough material there on the cover or whatever it is that I understood that this has something to do with it, like she's a ghost. I kind of like stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's like
Mhm.
I didn't fully realize what this movie is, like more of a rom-com that she's a ghost or whatever it is, but the movie starts off that she lives, I think, in San Francisco, and she basically has some kind of accident and dies, but she is still like, lives in the same apartment, her spirit, and Mark Ruffalo moves in there. I like stuff like this. Was it a bit too sensitive and rom-commy, like a little, or a bit too sensitive for my taste? Sure, but the idea of a ghost and like living in the apartment and talking whatever, and this a little bit of a supernatural thing, I kind of like that. And I will say this: as dumb as this movie is, Reese Witherspoon is excellent in it, and Mark Ruffalo, most of the time he kind of stands and makes this face as though like he just farted. Most of the time, that's what he looks like throughout the movie. It's sort of like you could have put anybody there to make that farting face, and he just would have filled the same role. So
Yeah.
that's my thought about it. I don't know why how did I bring up this movie? Oh, because Mark Ruffalo, that's his best role. Even on the poster when they made it, they're like, let's put him really small so that nobody notices him, like making the farting face, and we'll put like Reese Witherspoon really big on this, so maybe somebody will think that she's in it. That's what Caleb Levine says, rom-commy. Yeah, absolutely.
A rom-commy. Very good.
Yeah, so this is it. I guess the critics didn't like it. But the popcorn meter, what used to be the tomato meter, now that's 75%. People said out of over 200. I'm surprised that over 250,000 people even watched and rated this thing. Like, I was seriously thinking that I'm the only person that's ever watched this movie.
Yeah.
Caleb Levine says, should have had Ryan Gosling. He has the best fart face. Yes, he has the best fart face. That would have been, a better setup. He would have been the right choice. Anyhow, so that was Mickey 17. People ask me, I said in the 60s. I have to think about how much exactly in the 60s. I don't want to just, give a score without thinking of all the ins and outs, but it's going to be probably mid to high 60s. That's probably what I'm going to give it. It's a movie that's decent enough to watch, but it's also not one that's left much of an impression on me. I feel like it thinks like the movie, as well as like Bong Joon-ho, I feel like they think that they're more clever than what they are. I don't know if you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've seen a lot of that in Hollywood recently where there's a lot of stuff where they're like, "Oh, look how clever we are with what we're doing. Oh, do you get it yet? Do you get what we're going?" And it's like, yeah, it's been obvious from like the very start. We get it, and we're not that impressed. Thanks.
Right, exactly. It's just like whatever. It just kind of moves, it meanders from place to place. It never really captures me. There was like at least 1 minute there was a real danger of me falling asleep. Like, as close as I've come to falling asleep in a theater, recently was like after about 30 or 40 minutes. Maybe it was like 45 minutes. And the movie is like 2 hours and something. It's a long time to be wasting my time with this nonsense. I just these days you have these reclining seats that kind of take us sort of,
Oh
kind of
yeah,
laying back.
those big plush layback leather seats.
Right,
You
on
can
the
sit
leather
there. Oh
seats, I'm
yeah.
like laying back and it's boring me. Like I could easily doze off for a few minutes.
Oh yeah.
So Uh, Caleb Levine. I remember seeing the trailer for that rom-commy movie. The trailer explains the whole movie. Well, the reason it's comedy because Ruffalo is in it, but otherwise, I mean, somebody said they liked Legally Blonde. Yeah, Legally Blonde is a good movie. Legally Blonde is a movie that also is better than it has any right to be. I would say that, like, again, give some points to Reese Witherspoon. She can turn on the charm. If you give her certain types of roles, even if they're kind of mediocre, she has like the charm. She has a certain on-screen charm about her, and she can sometimes elevate a screenplay that's just like whatever. I feel like this Heaven movie was one of those. Legally Blonde is certainly another one. That's really a movie that she just like took upon her shoulders and delivered, even though in the hands of another actress it could have been a complete flop, I think. Have you seen Legally Blonde, Professor?
Oh yes, I saw that. It's been quite some time, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fairly clever comedy for what it was, and not my favorite thing that I've ever seen, but I did like the themes of sort of underestimating her because of her appearance and everything like that. I thought it worked really well, and it was a funny comedy. I enjoyed it. It's been like I said, quite some time since I've seen that, but uh, yeah,
By the
I
way,
never saw the sequel. There was a
I did
sequel where she just becomes like a senator or something. I never saw that one.
the sequel is terrible. Like the first movie
Okay.
has a certain charm. I'm embarrassed to say that I saw that sequel. It's called something like Bruiser's Bill. That she goes to Washington and she wants to pass a bill to help her dog or something.
Oh,
Man,
jeez.
that second movie is rough, man. That is like you can just feel that there's nothing. They got nothing. It's like she Reese Witherspoon tries so hard to sell that movie, and she's great every time she's on screen. She does as best as she can with that material. That screenplay is a disaster for number two. By the way, I
Woof.
must have told you that I saw the movie Novocaine, right?
No, I didn't hear you saw that one.
I didn't say it on the last time we were on stream. I forgot to even say it. I've been so
No.
busy. There's
Yeah.
a movie called Novocaine. I
Yeah,
already
that one
saw
looked
it.
kind of interesting. I saw the trailers for that. It
So
looked,
let me see if I can find that. I'm giving you the
yeah.
heads up. This is a movie that has not come out. I was told, I guess, that on Saturday they're doing some advanced screenings or sneak preview screenings. I actually have already seen it, so that's one of those that I did actually.
Oh, nice.
No, Novocaine. Let me see if I can find this. So let me find it. Novocaine is a is a movie with Jack Quaid, the son of I think Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan.
Mhm,
The point of this movie is that it's a guy that he has like some kind of medical issue that he doesn't really feel pain. He has like a nervous, defect where he doesn't really feel pain.
mhm.
And he this is all in the trailer, so I'm not ruining anything. He works at a bank and has kind of a more average life or whatever it is. But when some bank robbers show up and commit violence in their bank, including kidnapping a woman who he kind of is fond of, he kind of decides to take action. Now, part of what happens in this, and you see it in the trailer, is that the fact that he sort of doesn't feel pain comes in handy, and in some kind of weird way, it almost makes him sort of a superhero.
Yeah,
But again, even though he's sort of like a superhero, he obviously can be hurt because if somebody injures him, it's not that like he's not injured; he just doesn't fully
he
feel it.
just doesn't feel it. Yeah.
Right. So it's an interesting concept. I see there's nothing on Tomato Meter or Popcorn Meter. There's an embargo, but I myself have seen it. So I even have the information before Rotten Tomatoes does. Now, my opinion of the movie is this: first of all, Jack Quaid, he's not a bad actor. I
I do enjoy him. Yeah, I think he does a pretty good job. Not that I, not that I've loved everything he's ever been in,
no,
but I've enjoyed his performances. I think he does a good job.
I'm not suggesting he's the best, but I think he's also kind of improved. He started off in The Boys. I think in the first season he was
Yeah.
fine. I saw him recently in that companion movie where he needed to play a douche, and in this one he seemed to he wasn't as douchey. But what I've learned about the guy is that he actually a lot of times you have like a child of actors, and he's not good as either of them. Like Kravitz isn't like doesn't have the cool that like Lenny Kravitz has, and she doesn't have the likability or even I think the acting skills of her mother, Lisa Bonet. Or, I also think that, Lisa Bonet, in my personal opinion, is prettier than her. That's just my opinion. Sometimes you have kids that like actually take qualities from their parents and actually do something good with them. Recently, Lily Rose Depp in Nosferatu thought she was great in that movie. And when it comes to what's his name, Jack Quaid, he has this kind of more rough, kind of grumpy thing that he takes from Dennis Quaid, but at the same time, he can turn on the charm and be a little more charming, like Meg Ryan.
Yeah.
So it's a really good balance, and I think that in this movie, I was quite impressed with him. He held the movie as like the lead. he is the main actor of this movie. He is the undeniable lead, and I thought that he did a very decent job. That was probably my biggest takeaway, that I thought, oh, this guy actually is pretty decent. He did a good job. I'm not saying
Yeah.
that he could be in every role, but I can certainly see him doing some roles and being very decent at them.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think he's got excellent comic timing, honestly. I think he does really well when he has some comedic part of the role to play. I think he does a really good job with it.
Yes, I agree, and this movie required, like, comedy, but it also required him to sort of be serious in certain parts, 'cause
Mhm.
he needs to sell this to you that it's really happening and it's serious, and at the same time, it should be a bit amusing. I felt that the movie was able to strike that balance. I'm not saying I was sitting around rolling around laughing every second, but I thought that it reminded me a movie from the kind of movies we used to see in the theater. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, it's kind of silly, it's preposterous, but if you come with the right mindset and you're there to have a good time, this movie offers that good time to you. It's not, you don't suffer watching it. Um, there was even that actress Amber Midthunder who played in that Prey movie with that she was a little girl in the forest that killed predators with her bare hand. You remember
Oh
that?
yes, yeah, okay.
Now, I'll be honest, I didn't, that movie was just okay. It wasn't the worst. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, that Prey movie. I honestly didn't think that she was the worst actress, but the part that she was like, 2 pounds and battling the predator was kind of a joke. And I think that that was the weakest part of that movie. But in this movie, she plays sort of like a love interest to him. And you know what? She was rather likable too. I didn't hate her. I actually, at first I didn't even recognize her. Only later when I saw her name, oh, it's the same one from Prey. She seemed familiar to me. This is obviously a more mature character. I don't know how old the actress is, but I assume that at this point she's in her 20s, and I thought that was fine. I'm trying to think of who else was even in this movie. What other actors? Uh, not a lot of like very well known actors.
Mhm.
That's the one, those 2 are the ones that there's this one, I think it's this guy that's, the guy that plays Ned in Spider-Man?
Mhm. Yeah.
He had something of a role here. I think he's pleasant enough. When you give him, like, I'm not saying that you need to see him, like, every second, but when you need a little bit of, like, comic relief and you see him on screen, that actor can do it. So, I think that the main actors that I recognize here was, like, Jack Quaid, Amber Midthunder, and that guy from the Spider-Man movies. Perfectly fine. Again, will you sit there and think that this is like, The Godfather? No. You're not gonna sit there and think like this is the best movie I've ever seen. You're gonna think this is a silly popcorn movie, but there's goodwill here from the cast and the crew and the way it's made, that you can just enjoy it for kind of a dumb fun type of movie.
Well, good. Yeah.
Let's put it this way. I suffered less watching Novocaine than I did watching, what's his face? Mickey 17. And I feel like Novocaine at least went by relatively quickly. I never felt like I wanted to doze off. I felt like the thing was moving at a steady pace. It had, like, action. It was doing its thing, and
Yeah.
the
Oh.
only the thing is, most of the time I felt that it was fine. There's one thing that I'll tell you, that in the final scene of the movie, there's something that a character says, and it's like, well, of course you're a white man, so you won't get charged. So something stupid, and I'm just like, ugh. Like, the only I won't take away, it's not like the Ruffalo that it's like I would take away like 10 points just for his performance, but, like, whatever grade I decide to give, I'm probably gonna deduct, like, at least 1 point for that stupid comment at the end, because I think that, like, if you deleted that comment, it wouldn't, you know nothing would happen to the movie. It's just like, I understand I'm not, like, overly sensitive, and it could be, like, just a joke, but you know what? I've just heard so much of these dumb jokes over the past several years that I feel like it's enough of it, you know what I mean?
Mhm. I
So
do.
there was some weird white man joke, and I didn't, again, it's not that I have thick skin. It's not that I'm sitting around and I'm like weeping about it. It's more of a matter of principle. It's like, you want us to buy your tickets to your stupid movies. Just shut up already. You've been doing this for 7 years. Now make movies. Shut the fuck up. Sorry, Sean. Make movies and stop with this. Whatever this crap is, stop it. You know what I mean? if not for the last 7 years, I would have sat there, I probably would have chuckled at it maybe, you know what I mean? But, like, now nobody
Yeah.
gets a pass. Nobody gets a pass. Like, I feel like they've used that joke up so many times, and by this time, like, the only reaction that it gets is, like, me rolling my eyes. Me rolling my eyes while watching the movie means it's taking me out of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. It's just like we don't need that
It
in
was
there.
such a
It's
stupid
it's a
toss-away,
dumb
unfunny joke. You
yeah, it's a stupid, dumb throwaway joke, and it's insulting. So just stop. Well, it didn't need to be there, right?
is back.
Uh,
He says, "Have you watched Yellow Jackets?" I've heard of the show. I haven't had a chance. I don't know if it's good or not. Somebody said, "Is Price talking about Novocaine the movie or the dental surgery?" No, the reason it's called Novocaine is because he can't feel anything, and his name is like Nathan Kane or something. And like as a nickname, when he was growing up, people called him Novocaine because he couldn't feel pain. It's not bad. Like I said, uh, I overall walked out of it thinking that it was okay. Probably when I give it a score, I would give it a higher score than I gave. Mickey, whatever it is. Let me see what I wonder what the budget for Novocaine was, because I believe that it didn't have the budget of like
hmm.
Mickey 17. Let me see what the budget was. Let's see. Do you happen to know Novocaine
Let's
movie
see.
budget? Let's see. Well, I can't. The 2001
Financial.
movie by the same name had $8 million, but pretty sure that's not what they meant.
Looking at the numbers, and I'm not
It
seeing
doesn't
them
seem to be
for
advertised
that. So yeah, I'm
can't
not seeing
really.
that anywhere that I've got access to.
I'm
So
gonna go on a limb here and say that I don't think that this movie costs like $118 million like that. What's his face? That Mickey 17 did. Mickey 17 probably also cost that amount because it really had a certain set with like a spaceship and whatever. I think there were practical sets there, and also like there were all this CGI with these creatures and things like that. I assume that at least part of that went there. But at the end of the day, when I look at it, you could have some elements that are good, but you need to make a really good movie to justify something costing between like 100 to 200 million. And I prefer movies that go for a smaller budget and a better idea. I suspect that Novocaine did not cost $118 million. If it cost maybe like, I'm going to go with like, 20 million dollars. That's what I'm going with. I don't have any proof. I could be wrong, but it probably they're trying to show it I think they're doing Saturday screenings. Probably they're trying to get good word of mouth, and they may get it because people, that just want an escapist dumb movie that's sort of fun will probably watch it and say something good about it. Like
yeah,
I'm usually pretty grumpy, and I even said it was all right. I didn't suffer watching it.
yeah. I do like what you're saying, that it doesn't overstay its welcome. I think there's so many movies recently that they just feel like they're taking forever. They just drag on and on. And part of that is because they've been just consistently pushing out all of these movies that are like 2.5 hours, 3 hours. You're like, this movie didn't need to be this long. You could
The
have
thing is,
told this story. You could have very easily cut this down so that you can deliver the story you need to deliver, and it told this in an hour and an hour and 40 minutes or something. You didn't need 2.5, 3 hours to tell the story.
here, this movie was 110 minutes, but honestly, with what's his face credits and whatever, around like 100 minutes, it probably ends.
Yeah.
Uh, that's usually like a good length. I feel like I sat there about an hour and 40 minutes. Perfect. It didn't outstay its well. That was the exact time it needed to be on.
No, that's good. That's good.
Right.
Argentum says that The Brutalist, for example, is 3.5 hours of misery porn. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? It's good that you mentioned that. Let me, did I tell you that I saw The Brutalist, or I never
No,
mentioned
no,
it?
I didn't hear you saw that one either. I did see, Argento was mentioning mentioning Drinker's review of it.
Oh, Drinker did a review of it?
Well, he didn't do a full review. He was talking about the Oscars. He talked about he talked about that one.
So, basically, this movie
Well, I can't tell you anything about this movie, so we're gonna have to wait for Price to come back. Oh, there he is. Okay.
jokes.
Yep. That
Can you see this?
yeah.
So basically, I went into this movie with really, really high expectations that this would be a quality movie. And you know what? This movie is one of the biggest disappointing experiences that I've had at the movie theater in a very long time. I watched the movie, and I feel like the movie is like 3 hours and 30 minutes or whatever it is. And after I think about 2 hours or 2 hours and something, there's like an intermission. Now, up until the intermission, I thought the movie was intriguing. I thought it was well directed, well shot, well acted, well paced. There were interesting things going on. I was in it. You know what I mean? Even with how long it was, I'm like, okay, this is a quality movie. Throwback to these kind of older school quality movies. Immigrant shows up, in New York, during World War II, tries to find his way, professionally, trying to get jobs and things like that, dealing with different things, the kind of how people acted, certain discrimination, but it all makes sense within the time frame of wherever he's at, and it's done in a way that I feel is nuanced and interesting enough. I thought that it had a very kind of, it even had heart. I liked what I was watching, and when the intermission happened, I thought to myself, wow, this is a pretty good movie. I'm so curious to see what'll happen in the final hour, and I had this feeling that the movie was really going to deliver. And I came back, like, it was a intermission. I walked out 10 minutes, I don't know what. I came back, I sat down, and I think initially when it started, it was just kind of like going in a few places that I wasn't sure about. But somehow I'll tell you that the last hour of this movie, in my opinion, is an absolute disaster. I can't explain to you how annoyed that I got about this last final hour of the movie. It felt to me, I'll tell you what it felt like. It felt like in the middle of the movie, somebody airdropped Ryan Johnson on the set of this movie and told him, "Why don't you wrap up this baby? You have some writing ideas and directing ideas. Why don't you wrap up this movie?" And then you suddenly got like the last hour is like you're being Johnson, you know?
Yeah.
And
Oh,
the reason I'll tell you why, because I feel like up until the intermission, there's sort of a, I don't wanna say hopeful, but there's something that, you're inspired. A guy came from far away, the challenges that he has, trying to make something of himself. There's a story here that you feel maybe as you watch it will even feel a little bit of inspiring, you know what I mean? And you also think that it could end in one out of 2 ways. Either it's inspiring or it'll end in some kind of tragedy. You know, that's where I felt that it was going, either this or a sorrow tragedy. Either of those options would have been legitimate based on what they built up in the final 2 hours. Instead, we get like suddenly out of left field a scene that involves serving grapes, and really out of left.
classy.
Are you with me?
Yeah, classy.
But I'm telling you, out of left field, like until that moment, there's certain things happening, and you're like, okay, I get this movie. This is interesting, and I feel like the director just sat there and thought, the director writer, what if now there'll be grapes here? It's like, what if there isn't? You dumb idiot! You're ruining your own movie. Why even bother doing all of this thing? Well, what do I know? I guess he won awards and stuff, but there's serving grapes, and there's also another thing where it's implied that somebody else served grapes, and it's like, man, how did this movie like that seemingly told the story of a struggle of like somebody that came during World War II to this country, was trying to build a career. Not a true story, this thing, but I'm just saying that's the story it was trying to tell. How did it become like some movie about grapes? Totally annoyed me. It just annoys me even now thinking about it. It's like it's as if for a few hours in the movie they took a bucket and filled it full of water, and then like suddenly somebody came and kicked the bucket, and all the water just spilled all over the place. I don't know, the critics, of course, gave it 93%. They love all those, they probably love the grapes. Uh, it was probably, you know, why they love the grapes, because I feel like it was a way to, you know how we're always talking about, like, I don't know if to say like a white man bad situation. I don't know what they were going for. Trust me, there's a reason why it has 93%. They like those grapes at the end. And as far as like verified ratings, there's only like 1,000 people. I guess only 1,000 people were willing to go to the theater and sit for like 3.5 hours. I was one of those 1,000. I just didn't leave a review. Uh,
Oh. Yeah, you know, they always gotta throw something in there to create some sort of victim culture or something in the film. I don't know, it's weird.
It didn't need it. There was so much good to work with
Yeah.
here. It's just like, it really bothers me how good this movie started and how it ended. And yeah, I mean, some of the reviewers actually said, a few brave ones that weren't just trying to kiss ass for whatever reasons, said what I said. It started off interesting and then it ends just shitty.
Yep. And that's a couple people, Argentum mentioned that it needs to earn awards, right? So they got to do something to get the attention of the Academy. So
You know
there
what?
are some grapes in there.
Adam Gray said, "Hey, it worked for Joker 2, the Grapes." You know what? It
Yep.
felt like the end of Joker 2 suddenly. It felt like I was watching Joker 1 and 2 together, meaning like initially
Oh
like
no.
no, but I mean like because the earlier the first what seems like
Yeah. Yeah.
the funny thing is if this movie probably would have ended just shortly after the intermission, I probably would have walked out and said, "Okay, that's a pretty interesting movie." It's like I don't know why they needed to add like the thing with the serving grapes. Really have an issue with it.
Mm.
Now, and sometimes, if there's a movie about a person who's a criminal and that he serves grapes, you understand why that's in the movie. You know what I mean? But if there's a movie that seems to be telling one story and you think, okay, I understand, I'm with this movie for a few hours, I understand where it's going, I get it, and I'm on board, let's see where it goes. And then they're like, how do you like a lot of grapes? It's like, no, that's not what I like.
I really don't need those grapes in my
I don't
story.
need
Thank
them.
you.
Okay, if they help the movie, I would say like fine, like they really this helped the movie move forward. But man, it was like if there was a moment in the movie, and I couldn't believe it, that, like I felt cheated because I spent hours sitting there watching this stupid movie, and then like there was grapes, and I felt like getting up and leaving, but I wasn't going to do it because I invested already like my whole life. I sat there watching this movie, so what am I going to walk out in the middle now after like 70 hours?
70 hours. Oh, I really hope it didn't feel that long, but geez, yeah,
It
that's
felt as they were serving grapes, it really felt like it was lasting forever. So
Istafos says we should say they got canola'd. You don't get it?
I don't understand,
Okay,
no.
so canola is created from a seed, right? Uh, but it's not the canola seed. It's typically if farmers will refer to that seed that planted in the ground. It's referred to as rapeseed.
I
So
see. I see what you mean. I got it.
you get canola from yeah,
I got it now.
yeah.
But so that's what I have to say about this movie, and that's why I ultimately wouldn't recommend it. It bothers me. Another movie, this is I guess a thing. Another movie that I saw was I probably mentioned it, but it was an Oscar thing. So I guess I'll talk about it just for a second. Uh, The Substance with Demi Moore. I saw that movie too. Did I tell you?
Yeah, I think we talked about that one.
But the reason why I'm bringing it up is that is another case of a movie where the movie, I don't know if it's like 2 hours and 15 minutes or whatever it is. The first probably 2 hours of it are really good. Like really good for whatever genre this is. Like I was intrigued. I thought it was interesting. I sat there, I watched it. I thought this is a good movie. And then you have like the final 20 minutes and I've rarely felt like a filmmaker that's so overindulgent and annoying in the last portion of his movie, or that's I think it's a woman of her movie, than this one. So overindulgent and annoying, and it's like You could have just ended the movie 20 minutes ago and it probably would have been a much better movie. Every minute of her continuing that movie with what she was doing with it was just like deducting points. It's a movie that probably would have had like, I would have given a very, very decent score and said was like, well, this is a very good movie. And instead I walked out thinking, well, so it was all right, I guess.
Yep.
So I don't know what it is these days. I guess people feel like they can't just do a movie. They have to do a movie that you sit there for a few hours, feel like you're on board, and then they give you the middle finger. I feel like that's like they're all trying to Ryan Johnson us basically. That's I guess the late he started a trend maybe in Hollywood. They all want to be like they want to Johnson us.
They
Phantom X
all
said
they want to
Phantom
give you the Johnson.
They're all John. They want to Johnson us. All these people. That's what they want to do now. Phantom Monk said, "Agreed. The ending went to all hell. Yeah, it was unnecessary. I don't want to spoil it because I don't know if people have seen it, but I'll say that like there was a moment in the movie that like could have been. There was a way to end it in like the perfect way that really makes you think. And I thought that the movie was about to end because it felt like that was where the movie needed to end. Instead." They're like, why don't we put you through this suffering for like 20, 30 minutes now? You want to suffer? Here you go. And then it's just like, why? So yeah, that's what's happening these days in film. I heard something, a rumor that Demi Moore had a falling out with the director of this movie, and I guess during awards season they didn't
Interesting.
want to talk to each other. I don't know why. I don't know why they would have a falling out. I mean, at the end of the day, I thought the director did a pretty decent job, with with the directing, and I thought that Demi Moore certainly did a good job with acting. Honestly, I would have given her the award. They gave it to that, like the one that played the whore or whatever it is.
Yeah. I guess we never did talk about our the picks that we made right before
Oh, what happened to the picks? What
our
happened to
Oscar. Here, I'll
you
pull
have
it
our
up real
picks?
quick.
Oh, okay.
All I know is it was horribly embarrassing. That's but
Well,
what better thing to talk about?
wait, we did picks. We did like gambling before the Oscars where
We
we said,
did, yeah,
do
and
you have the list?
we did not do well.
We didn't do well.
No, here,
Either
let
of
me
us.
pull it up for you here. There we go. Nope. Oh no, it's not gonna let me share. Oh no, don't do that thing. There we go. Okay, that's working. So there are picks. Price. You can see all the green ones. Those were correct. I had one that I didn't get to count as green because I picked Mi Camino from Amelia Perez, where it was the other song El Mal
You were
from
close enough.
Amelia
I'll give
Perez.
you the point. Half a point.
Half a point on that one. So, um, we picked a bunch of them the same. A bunch of the ones that we picked the same, like Wicked for production design, Brutalist for cinematography, costume design went to Wicked. You got international film here, which I didn't get as I'm still here. You got Kieran Culkin for best supporting actor, which, by the way, what little I did watch of the Oscars, I found Kieran Culkin's acceptance speech absolutely hilarious. Did you see any of this?
I saw it. Yeah, I really like Kieran Culkin. I don't know why I
Yeah.
like him, but I like him.
He seems like just a really kind of down to earth kind of guy. But yes, his acceptance speech was hilarious. Where he stops him. He's like, "Don't start the music! Don't start the music! I have a story to tell about my wife." Where essentially it was a previous award, it was a Golden Globe or something else that he had said, where he had essentially said, like, "Oh, if I win the award, we get to have a third kid," and she agreed. And so now he's like, "What if I get an Oscar? Then we go for another one." And he's like, "Well, now I've got it. Here it is." Like, let's have another kid. And they kept cutting back to her, and she was just in tears laughing. It was hilarious. But yeah, we both got Zoe Saldana for best supporting actress. That one seemed like a shoe-in. I mean, I didn't figure that was going to go to any of the other options.
No, they
And
wanted to
then
give her
you
more.
did get a Nora for best picture. So interestingly enough, there were a few that were almost totally shut out. There was only one, let's see, of some of the best pictures. See, I don't think we got anything for A Complete Unknown. Did it get any?
No, I don't think it
No,
did.
yeah, no, it
I
didn't.
don't
It
think
did
it
not
got
get it
anything.
all. But yeah, we ended up with a whole lot of but we both missed animated film. Which, by the way, the one that did win, Flow. Actually, I did watch that with my kids. Would still say I think Wild Robot's a better movie. But Flow was interesting. It was not not your typical kids movie. It was very kind of there's a lot of metaphor there. There's absolutely no words in it whatsoever. Have you seen it?
I haven't, but I heard that they
Okay.
made it on the cheap with like open source software or something.
Yes. Um, but yeah, it was made with just just standard off the shelf software. The animation is really well done. It's the story is a bunch of different animals that are trying to survive in sort of like a post human world or whatever. But then the world that they're in doesn't seem very Earth like in a lot of ways. So it's kind of strange. But um, they it's all of these different animals. The central character is a cat, which my daughter saw that. She was like, "I gotta watch it. I love it." So we watched that, and I thought it was interesting. It wasn't a bad film. So that taking away the win for animated film, I don't while I still think I enjoyed the Wild Robot better, I can understand why the Academy might like that one more. It's a little more artsy, so they like that kind of thing. But yeah, we missed all of these sort of secondary categories like songs and scores and visual effects and stuff. We all missed those. So yeah, you got a total of 7 picks out of
It-
23. I got 5 out of 23. So
It's fine. No,
yeah,
a lot of this was just nonsense, anyways.
just for the fun of it
I
anyway.
will
Yeah.
say though that for me, when I think about somebody like Demi Moore, she's been in the industry for many years,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
and I think that if there's a chance, that somebody like after so many years, has this kind of performance that I really think she did good in that movie. I think it's best to give people who have like a long track record of working. Uh, they don't think this way, but I'm telling you, people that have worked for years and have been in movies that have made money and helped the box office and helped the industry and also doing like quality movies and a good actress, I think that's the type of actress that you want to give an award to. But these numbnuts, they give it to some, I'm not saying I didn't watch Honora. Maybe this Mikey Madison did a great job, but between you and me, this kind of glorified Pretty Woman movie doesn't feel like that's what it needed, you know. And I don't know. I think that this was the moment to give Demi Moore the award. They do this often. They do this often to like Glenn Close. Glenn Close is a really good actress. They've nominated her, I don't know, like 10 times or something. Each time for like the past like 40 years, she has to show up to the ceremony, and at the end they give it to somebody else. And there were a few times that they could have just given her the award. You know what I mean? What are you waiting for?
Sure.
If you've nominated her like 10 times statistically, at least like once she should have won, right? Or
Of
maybe
course.
they
Yeah.
nominated her like 20 times or something. Can we check that? How many times has Glenn Close been nominated?
Oh my goodness. I have no idea.
How many times here has Glenn Close been nominated for an Oscar? Okay. 8 nominations for 8 Academy Awards. So it wasn't 10 but 8. But you know what? After 8 times, statistically, at least one of those could have been a win. You know what I mean? You're kind of a jerk off if after all these nominations, after all these years, you're not giving her. She steadily works in the industry. She steadily puts in good performances. At the end, you say, "Here's your award." You know what I mean? Like consistency and longevity and being in movies and succeeding, that should count for something. It's like they don't even do the merit thing within Hollywood when they're awards, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, as for like Kieran Culkin, I saw Real Pain. I don't know if I did I tell you that I saw Real Pain?
I think you mentioned it at one point, yeah, but I don't think we talked at length about it.
So a Real Pain, let me see if I can pull this up.
Mhm.
So A Real Pain is a movie. It's like I think Jesse Eisenberg wrote it. Uh, it had something loosely to do with experiences that people had in his
Yeah.
family. Basically, it's about two cousins that their grandmother passed away, and they go to Poland because her family was originally from there, and they went through the war and the different things that happened there and the camps, and they're sort of like it's one of those things that people take those kind of trips. Um, I thought it was a unique perspective on it. It was a movie that's something it's one of those type of indie movies that again I don't know if this is a good way to explain it. The kind that we used to see from Hollywood. You know how you used to see a movie like Sideways or something like that. That they used to have like maybe indie movies that they liked, but they were indie movies that you could I don't know if to say if you could relate to, but that you're watching something that's sort of indie, but you're not necessarily suffering watching it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course.
So I think that this movie, considering the subject matter that could have been just like a dark and whatever, it has a lot of humor in it. And I think that Kieran Culkin gives a really good performance. He actually appears basically the same amount of screen time as Jesse Eisenberg, and you could have considered them both like co-leads of the movie. But I guess these days, sometimes studios have strategy that if they think that somebody's not going to win for the main one, they do like a supporting actor, which is what they did here. Just like Zoe Saldana, actually, I think that Emilio Perez thing is crap, but she appears in more scenes, more screen time than the person that plays Emilio Perez,
Yeah.
and basically she was a supporting actor. Similarly to that here, I guess they thought, well, if we do supporting actor, he has a chance of winning, and he did win. I can't say I saw some of these Oscar movies. I certainly think that he was a good. He puts in a really good role here. That's why when we did our list, I said that I think he would win, mainly because I thought that he deserved to win. Uh, Maybe because of the Oscars, I probably shouldn't have given it to him because they never give the right person the award. But in this one case, I thought that he deserved it, and they actually gave it to him.
Yep. Yep.
It's
That's good.
he. I'll give him credit. I don't know if Kieran Culkin can do every role in the world, but there's certain roles that are good for him, and this was a role that was just perfect for him. So,
Yep. Well, I
you know,
will say, as far as the Oscars, I was surprised that Amelia Perez only got the 2 Oscars, one for Zoe and one for the original song. I was really surprised that Dune 2 got anything at all, and it won both sound and visual effects.
it's weird that it got sound. The sound sounded like a bunch of crap happening in this movie. I didn't like the
Yeah, no, I
sound at
hated
all.
it. I did not like it at all. It was just
That's just a
cacophonous
joke.
mess most of the time.
I would be pissed if I was nominated for sound and they gave it to Dune 2. Be really pissed. And when it comes to Emilio Perez, I think that they wanted to give Emilio a lot of awards, but what happened is that once the star person, the one that plays Emilio,
Yeah.
said things online that was like considered like a PR disaster, I feel like a lot of people steered away from it, and that's how Nora became like the movie that got all these awards. By the way, I was reading today. I don't know if you saw this. There was an article, I believe, in Variety that they said that Nora, the production of that movie cost $6 million. Okay,
Yeah.
they had a marketing budget as well, and then they had what's called an Oscars campaign budget. Do you know
Yep.
what the Oscars campaign budget was?
10 million.
$18 million.
18.
Basically,
Good
the
God.
movie cost $6 million. They spent $18 million to kiss ass to the
Yep.
Academy in hopes of getting an award, which it ended up winning. And apparently, another thing that they did was they also screened Nora for sex workers because they wanted to appeal to their audience or something. Nobody even watched this stupid movie. At the end, this is a movie that like critics and sex workers sat in a room watching it in like theaters, and nobody else watched it. It made like $3 in the box office, and they give it all the awards. This Oscars thing is not worth anything. I feel like this award ceremony becomes less relevant every year, and they're not doing anything to try to help save themselves. Like it's almost like at this point they're like the people playing the violins on the Titanic. That's what I feel like the people that run the Oscars is. Like they're not learning any lessons. They just choose movies that are more obscure, that nobody cares about, that nobody watches. Sorry about that.
That's right. Bless you.
I sneezed.
Mhm.
I don't know if you could hear it.
A little bit.
I tried to take take a step back. Istophobo says, "When did sex workers have the time?" I don't know. They made time for Nora.
Well, I mean, if they're gonna, if you know, if they're gonna take a couple of their hours to watch the movie, I'm sure they paid them for their time.
Absolutely. So you had. Let me see for a second if I can find this.
Yeah. Oh, the yes, calling them sex workers. It's they're hookers.
Yeah, now that's like the nice thing to
Yeah,
say.
yeah, yeah. This whole thing with the, you're talking about Honora, them spending a huge money. Yeah, this is how it is now. Ever since, old Harvey Weinstein found out that he could buy Oscars. That's how it works now.
But I'll
Everybody
tell
has
you
to have a
this.
big budget to go in and campaign for getting Oscars for your movie. That's just how it goes now. And
But
Harvey broke the Oscars when he found out you could go out and buy votes. You could buy people for your movie, and that's why we got what was it, Shakespeare in Love? They got the Oscar that year instead of Saving Private Ryan. Yeah.
I mean, here's what I think, and I said this to Tom earlier. That I think that Harvey Weinstein, there's a lot of bad things that you could say about him, and those bad things in a lot of cases are correct. But there's one thing that I can say about him. That guy knew what he was doing when it comes to producing movies. He discovered people like Tarantino. He sometimes there's a lot of good movies you see that you start at the beginning and you see his name there, meaning with all of his faults, and these are serious faults. I'm not trying to minimize them or anything. If you separate his personal behavior and all the bad that he did, that guy knew how to produce movies. And even though he gamed the system, like you say, with how he paid and did the campaigns and all that stuff, at minimum, a lot of his movies were actually decent. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? It's
Yeah,
different.
absolutely.
At least his movies were decent. What these people are doing is they put together crap and they're like, well, let's just use the Harvey blueprint, but instead of a good movie, we'll just have some crappy movie and we'll show it to sex workers, and they got away with it. So it says something bad about this whole Oscars, uh, and then it's like this. This is interesting. The guy that like is the Neon CEO, Tom Quinn. This is the guy that like the studio for this movie. So he said, "We follow the beat of our own drum. The idea of pandering to the campaign as opposed to being who you are as a film is a big stark difference. We never play to the campaign. We always play to the film, filmmaker, and audience in that order." And then he's like, uh, "There's this part with the sex workers." Uh, trying to find. I'm sure there was something about sex workers, unless they deleted it. I'm trying to find this thing. Oh, it's so long and annoying. There was something about the sex workers. Let me
While you
try to
look for
find.
that, we got a super chat.
Oh, okay.
Oh, we got a super
Well,
chat from the Dead Man, who he's here. I don't know if he stepped out or if he's just been been hanging out for a while in the background, but yeah, we missed your super chat earlier about about the big club and not being in the club, and we mentioned it. We weren't sure if you're around for it. So, and he's got another super chat for us though. The Dead Man for $2 says, "You can't recite the lyrics of The Hurricane."
I probably can't. Can you?
No,
Do you mean the Bob Dylan song, "The Hurricane"?
that's what I'm assuming he's talking about. But no, I could not.
Isn't "Hurricane" the one about a boxer that
Yes,
was thrown in jail and not rightfully so? It was like there was
yeah,
Islamophobia.
it's a protest song thing. I could not
There's
remember.
this kind of violin, so something, but I probably couldn't sing it. I'd have to listen to it, but it's not a song. It's a song that if you put it on, I definitely know the song and I like it, but it's also a song that I probably couldn't perform very well. Yeah, Bob Dylan, he's good at this kind of rambling storytelling style, and it's perfect for him. It's not perfect for me, but yeah, it's a good song though. I think it's a good song. So I appreciate that, the dead man. I appreciate the $2 super chat. And if you see this thing with Honora, so this is the part that annoyed me. This is like this article now kissing their ass. In the run up to the Academy Awards, Neon took a unique approach to scoring the season's top prize for Nora, while other studios spent their money on tried and true strategies from tastemaker screenings to glossy ads. Neon pulled up a tow truck in front of a Los Angeles auto body shop for a pop up Nora merchandise sale in November, complete with branded t shirts and thongs. Some 300 fans queued up before the vehicle even arrived. Why would they show up? This sounds fishy. It sounds like these 300 people were like extras that they paid. And for its first screening of the film about a Brooklyn escort who marries a Russian oligarch's kid, the boutique distributor filled the audience with sex workers rather than Oscar voters. They're really not impressing with this. This is all shit. Sorry, Sean. We follow the beat of our own drum, says Tom Quinn, Yancio. Oh, this is the part. The idea of pandering to the campaign, blah, blah, blah. You're pandering. Shut up. This is just like this is a heist. Movies that 3 people saw about some sex workers, that's shit to me. And then there's what you were talking about, that this CW Powerpuff live action footage leaks.
This is
Bubbles is drunk. Buttercup hates gender normative costume, and more from canceled show.
it is pure punishment. Yeah. Mara Sharondoff was just mentioning it in the chat.
Yeah, I mean the thing is that I saw the trailer. I don't want to put it on because I've heard that like Warner Brothers is striking down places and bringing lawyers to anybody that's showing it on their channel, and I don't want any problems with anybody if they have an issue, but it is super cringe. I think that it's awful. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe some people like this kind of stuff. What I think that I was telling people is that sometimes you could do something that's sort of tongue-in-cheek funny. Like Charlie's Angels, the movie with Cameron Diaz, Drew Barrymore, and Lucy Liu, those movies were dumb, and they were sort of making fun of Charlie's Angels, but at the same time also functioned as Charlie's Angels, meaning they were silly, they were tongue in cheek, and they were poking fun at the property, but they also delivered enough fun and enough, like, of a crime thing that they're solving that you can also look at it as sort of a valid entry into whatever that franchise is. In this case, with this Powerpuff Girls, which I've only seen once the series before, it's not like I'm a big fan of this or really care one way or another, but I think that rather than capturing what made the cartoon kind of appealing to whoever liked it, I think they were trying to do all this weird woke stuff. It felt very, very cheap. It looks very
Oh,
cheap.
it's
Very
awful.
cheap.
It's awful.
It
And the
looks
thing
like
is too, they've got the dad who's, of course they made him black. And then they had him played by Donald Faison, who I actually like Donald Faison, but it's just like, why did you have to make him black? And then like he doesn't seem to fit the part at all. Not from the original series. And then the girls, they grow up and then they're all these like progressive, like teenagers, early college students. Oh god, it's infuriating. It's so bad.
I mean, Donald Faison is a decent actor. I don't have anything against him, but
Yeah.
the thing looks super cringe and bad.
Oh no, the whole thing looks awful.
He's not what ruins this thing. The thing itself is just embarrassing. It looks like something that somebody made on their laptop. Like, everything about it just looks cheap and stupid and awful. And I can understand. I think that they filmed this pilot, and initially they said that after this came, like they did a pilot, they were going to reshoot it, but at the end they just canceled everything. And
Well, this is the CW. Pretty much everything there is stupid and cheap.
right. I mean, the
So,
CW, like right now, I don't even know if they have the capital to even make anything anymore. But I think that this was peak CW, and it was so bad that even the CW didn't feel comfortable releasing it, and that really says a lot. And I think that my final takeaway here is that a lot of times you have something that could be cool as a quirky cartoon, like animated thing. It doesn't mean that you can translate it to live action. In this case, I think that it didn't translate well to live action. If you were going to do it, you needed a person that really wants to come with this kind of fun vibe, not this kind of bitter thing that they're talking about, like, racial stuff and all that, whatever nonsense was happening here. This was not the right direction.
No, no, it did not feel like the right direction to take this. Yeah. I think perhaps it could have been great to make fun of for being so awful, but that's about it.
I mean, it had Diablo Cody. Diablo Cody to me, I feel, is very overrated. I'm trying to think. What did she write? Did she write Juno? What is it that she wrote that they all ended up kissing her ass? I don't know if it was Juno that she wrote, and then she wrote like Jennifer's Body and all this. I think Diablo Cody, this is just my opinion, is a sham. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like somebody, I don't know, 10 years ago decided that they're going to make her a thing. And they're like, look, she's a woman and she's edgy. Look how great this is. And it's like, yeah, whatever. So already that's not a good sign. I guess
she
this is
she
somebody's.
wrote Lisa Frankenstein.
Yeah, I didn't even watch that.
No.
However, the pilot was later overhauled and reshot in May 2021, and Bennett dropped out in August. The reason you do pilots is because sometimes things miss, and this was just a miss. We believe in the cast, believe in Diablo Cody and Heather, blah, blah, blah. I don't believe in them. CW chairman and CEO Mark, he has a name that's very complicated to say. He has like a name that's like a PDF file. CEO Mark PDF file at the time. In this case, the pilot didn't work because I just don't want to be flagged for saying his name. But because we see there's enough elements in here, we wanted to give it another shot. That's why we didn't want to go forward with what we had. Tonally, it might have felt a little too campy. It didn't feel as rooted in reality as it might have felt. But again, you learn things when you test it out. And so this case, we felt blah, blah, blah. At the end, they just scrapped this whole thing, and rightfully so. Not everything needs to be a live action. Most things that are
No.
animated and you look like crazy cartoons are actually not good in live action. Once in a while, you have something that you could do live action. One Piece, they did something cool with their animated thing. But most of the time it doesn't work.
No. I rarely care for anything that's been a animated series they try to make live action. And that especially accounts for all of Disney's attempts at turning their animated series into live action. It's been appalling. And next we get Snow White. It's gonna be fun.
Totally. I guess I'm trying to think for a second. What else was on our did
I
you
think
GTA 6? Did you see that they want $100 for it?
yeah, I had seen some small stories, although most of them seem to be rumors right now, and some business analysts kind of making some guesses. But I read a little bit into it from a couple of places, and it does sound like perhaps the like premium editions would be expected to come in at $149, and that the standard edition of the game would be $100.
That game
For
better be
for
something special.
It's not gonna be. It's gonna be a woke nightmare. It is, there's gonna be massive amounts of returns of this game right after it comes out. This will be probably the end of Take-Two.
Robot Kitty says, have you seen a movie called Inside Out? That's a known movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
Inside
uh, Harold and the Purple Crayon, I didn't see.
Yeah, I didn't
Puss in
bother
Boots,
with that one.
Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, I was told it was good, and I just haven't gotten a chance to watch it.
It is well done. It's a really good kids movie. It doesn't talk down to the audience. It has some really strong themes in it as well about valuing the time that we have here together and valuing friendships and not spending all of our time worrying about things we can't change. So really good.
Empress and M, I hope they don't try to do Dexter's Lab as a live action.
Oh, jeez.
And
I think they'd have a hard time hiring Eddie Deason now.
Common People says, growing up as an Irish boy, I felt represented by 3 little American Girl superheroes. Strange how that works.
Oh, we do have another super chat from the Dead Man once again.
Dead Man, thank you so much. You're so kind to do this. Let me see what the super chat is. I want to share it. Okay. I think it's something about Bob Dylan. Let's see what he wrote. Bob Dylan uses the N-word in Hurricane, which wouldn't fly today. I'm sure I don't remember now all the lyrics, but I think it's because he's trying to highlight a certain discrimination thing that was very much relevant for that timeline. Yeah, we live in different times today. Recently there was something I do Quantum Leap streams every Thursday, and there were a few episodes that he leaps into the South or into something that has to do. There's black people there, and maybe there's racial tensions and things like that. And there were at least one, if not more, episodes where somebody suddenly used the N word, and I was so surprised because I just felt like today in a network show that would never fly. Like just like what the Dead Man said, that I absolutely don't think that would fly. But at that time, they were able to do it. And again, it's not like anybody used it in a way that, within the context of the episode, it's not that anybody's saying that it's good to use it. It's just trying to show you the reality of the time and the place that he leapt into. That actually, in the grander scheme, is one of the problems with the newer Quantum Leap. I'm like a broken record because I say this so often how much I dislike the new Quantum Leap show. But what they did with that show is that they had him traveling back in time, but everywhere he went, everything that was going around them was like 2020, 2022, whatever year that was. It was like they were pasting 2022 on whatever year he was going to. Do you
Mhm.
got what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
He goes into the 50s, so he meets a woman who puts bandages around her boobs.
Parts.
Is the boobs is okay, right? Or is that
Yeah,
not good?
sure. Yeah.
Sorry, Sean.
Jugs. Melons.
Melons, okay. So she puts bandages so it'll look like she doesn't have melons because she feels that she wants to be like sort of gender neutral, whatever it is.
Mhm.
And then like she does that and like she loves doing it and I don't know what. And it's like this is happening in the 50s. She's acting all like a girl boss. None of this makes any sense. And then the guy that came from the future, he's like, "Oh, you're ahead of your time. Like in my time, I don't know. He doesn't say in my time, but it's like this is like, oh, you're gender neutral." It was so annoying. It was so annoying. It's like, dude, this is not him traveling in time. This is him traveling to 2022 to like some cocktail party where he's talking to his friend. This is not in Los Angeles. This is not like where he leaped into in like the 1950s. Uh, it's like the same thing that I give this always as an example. There's an episode of the New Quantum Leap that he leaps into a priest in like 1919 or something like that, and he's at this rich family's residence. That there's some kind of girl who's sick, and I don't know. It's a long story. So their family doctor, is like a black man. Now in 1919, those rich people, I don't see it. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, it's not a
Yeah.
matter of how I feel. It's not a matter of it's like, oh, do you think, you don't think that there's an injustice that like there weren't, a lot of black doctors or that, this family wouldn't hire them? It could be an injustice. It just has nothing to do with the time. I just don't believe that at the time that guy would be their doctor. Do you
Mhm.
get what I'm trying to say?
No, I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah. It doesn't make sense in the context of the time that it's supposed to take place.
I mean, it's like if you made, oh man, I'm probably going to a very dark path that I probably shouldn't even go on. You're making a movie about World War II. The guy would like, let's say you have somebody like traveling back in time and he arrives in World War II in like Germany, and then like everybody sees like Jewish people and like they're super nice to them. You know what I mean? Like that wouldn't make sense with the story. It's not a, and people were like, well, it's not nice that happened. Yeah, it's not nice that happened. But if you have somebody traveling in time to a certain period of history, if it's a time travel show, part of what makes the time travel interesting is that a guy from a different time has to sort of be in a situation where something is happening and he has to adapt and try to understand. And through his journey, you learn or you get a feeling for what issues there were at the time. That's what the original Quantum Leap did well. He's in riots, like those Watts riots. He has different things. He's like he's really going in places in history where there was real tension and real things going on, and that makes sense. But if you're just going to do a time travel show and you want everybody to not be offended, you want them to feel good about themselves, no point in even doing the show.
Yeah, I really did not care for. Of course, in general reboots just don't interest me. Remaking stuff. It's like just get your own idea. Do something with your own idea. If you're gonna take that idea, try and expand on it somehow. Try and build on something that's there. But oh no, we gotta throw away everything we had, and we're gonna have to do it over again. And yes,
Well, we got Judy Tester 88 says there was a World War One video game where all the French soldiers were black. That's the same kind of thing. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Common people
like
says I stopped.
sounds like something a Google AI would make up. Yeah.
Common people says I stopped watching WW2 documentaries halfway through because I don't like the ending. Whatever that means. But Elvis Costello fired his band in the middle of a live set. I did not know that. Robot Kitty says, I'm having tomato sandwiches and found a new cool channel while my son watches New Zealand rugby with the rest of the country. I hope the cool channel that you're talking about is this channel, because we're happy to have you here.
Yes.
And I hope that you're already following us and that you'll join us for future streams.
And Robot Kitty wants to know who knitted King Frog.
Oh, I'm the knitted King Frog. Did she say that?
Yeah.
Nice.
Who knitted King Frog?
Oh, that's a very long story. But thank you. That's
people also in the chat were wondering what this whole sorry Sean inside joke is about. I'm like, this is gonna take a while to explain. I'm not sure I want to try and do that in chat.
Sorry Sean is what happens when somebody curses. It actually initially was Sorry Dread, and somehow Sean replaced Dread.
Yep. Well, I think it was Dread, and then we were kind of trading back and forth, and essentially like at some point, would say sorry R2, sorry Price, whatever, and then since Sean hasn't been around much because of his job, now it's just sorry Sean because he's not here. So
it's our way of a tip of the hat to Sean. Although I'm happy to also say sorry to Dread, who I also like very much. Mary White says more lore. Yeah, it did start off initially. Dredd is a very kind of wholesome guy. He's very tied to his has his religious beliefs and things like that. Sometimes I would go off and say things that were like maybe a bit envelope pushing, and then I'd feel bad because I didn't want to put him in an uncomfortable situation. So I'd find myself apologizing sometimes, or sometimes I'd say like, Dredd, close your ears. And then I'd say like terrible things. Not to mention that sometimes we have like Vex Electronica. When I think about it, the combo of like Dredd and Vex Electronica was actually quite funny.
Yeah,
because
it's like oil and water.
Right, that's like two very, very different things. Like Dredd is all like proper and whatever, and Vex Electronica is just like shooting like curses like all over the place. That was quite interesting conversations.
Dropping F-bombs and C-bombs.
C-bombs,
everything.
All of them.
Yeah.
And with Sean, I think Sean also doesn't really curse, so he also, I would apologize to him. But with Dredd, I think I felt even worse. Sean, at least maybe he doesn't curse, but he gets me.
All righty. Well, do we have what else do we have to say? Did we cover it all?
I
I
think
think
we
we got
did. Is
to
there one
everything.
final thing maybe about like Ubisoft and that Yasuke? Is there more weird crap going on with that
Well,
game?
that game that it's getting some early previews, but it's still not out yet. We're still kind of waiting to see what happens there. Obviously, there have been some early reviews. There's been some people coming out saying, "Oh, I got early access, and I've played the first 6 hours, and it is worth the wait." It's like, oh, shut up! Nobody believes you. Nobody. This game is gonna suck. It's gonna suck, and it's gonna be a huge flop, and it'll be the last thing that ever gets released by Ubisoft, right? At least as the company that it is now before it gets bought up by some other Chinese firm, right? It's yeah, it's gonna be bad. There's no possible way that they have managed to turn this around and make this into something good in just the few months that they've had, stretching this out, right? So yeah, not looking forward to it. I have no intention on buying this junk. So, although I might buy Yasuke Simulator on Steam, that might be a lot more fun.
I will say this: that Robot Kitty left a very nice comment. I think this is my favorite new live podcast. Really humbled by that. Thank you. I hope you're following. I hope you
Good.
did a like and you're following, and that you have an account. Well, you do because you made a comment, so you do have an account with Rumble. You should follow us for sure. Whatever platform you're watching it, first of all, if you're on Rumble and watching through the app, make sure to sign up for Rumble, which is free. And if you can follow us, that's really cool too. And we hang out here every Tuesday and Thursday at 11:45 p.m. Eastern. And in addition to that, if you're on any other platform, like you should definitely like and subscribe and join us because, yeah, we're always just kind of, growing our crew here. We're kind of a group of people that hang out here every Tuesday and Thursday. There's a lot of regulars here, and we really enjoy this kind of interaction we have with everybody. So, first of all, we appreciate it very much, and aside from that, you should definitely
Yeah.
join. Professor R2 also, you should check out what he's doing. He has his own channel on Rumble, and on Fridays he does B-roll with Adam Gray. Adam Gray is one of the mods here, which also is cool, and also Eraserhead is one of the mods here, is also cool. So yeah, you should definitely do all of this stuff, and I guess we've covered most of our topics today, Professor.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's about it. Talked about it quite a few things here this evening. So yeah.
Perfect. So I guess let's just try to
Yeah.
find all the people.
Well, let's see here. We saw, of course, we had Eraserhead and Adam Gray here with us tonight. Our mods, we very much appreciate your help in taking care of our channel and watching over the chat for us. Mary White, Kivo 1961, a regular around here on Rumble. Good to see you again, Kivo. Barakstro, Caleb Levine, the Dead Man, and thank you for the super chats, the Dead Man. We definitely appreciate the support. Tim Hayes, Beep Bop Boop, Phantom Monk, Kelly Hans, Istophobos, also good supporter of the channel. We appreciate seeing you. James Caserta, Dude Bro Seth 420, another of our regulars over on Rumble. Phantom Outsider, great to see you. Stephen Mack, Yitis, SWD 40, Loyosh, His Excellency Donald Trump, and that's yelled because it's all in caps. Empress NM, Matt Cat 83, good to see you, Matt Cat. We got Storm King, Argentum, hey there. Jonathan Conroy, the Big Ship, also a big supporter of the channel. Thank you for
Yeah,
all your
Big Ship is
support,
great.
Big Ship. We appreciate it. I have Nerdick, Cosgrove, Robnod Scoobla, Common People, Marla Sharondoff, another friend of the channel. Finger Music, Merig. I have no idea how to pronounce that. It's too many too many vowels in there. Captain Palsy, Pyromancer, Breeze Feats, Robot Kitty, Judy Tester 88, Donovia, and I think I got just about it. It looks like maybe a couple more in here. Rob Altus, I don't think I got you. Let's see if I missed anybody else. I don't know. I think I got just about everybody. If you noticed anyone else, Price, let me know. But I think I got it.
Did we get everybody on the Rumble side?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you get that finger person? There was something called like finger
Yes. Finger music.
music. Yes.
Yeah.
That sounded bad the way I described it. No, finger music.
The fingering person. Yes.
Fingering
that's
person.
what-
Argentum. Lord of the Rings gets a pass for 3.5 hour runtime. First of all, when you have movies like The Godfather, like Lord of the Rings, there's movies that absolutely could be 3 or 3.5 hours. Those are usually movies that somebody thought of a certain idea, and they need to be long because they're just important. You need more screen time for the ideas that you're watching. But in our day and age, there's a lot of movies that are just like, if we make it long, maybe people will think it's good. And it's like, no, that doesn't work that way. A lot of times I see these interviews with Stallone that initially the First Blood Part 1, the first Rambo movie, basically, the first cut of the movie was 3 hours, and he hated what he saw. He thought it was the worst movie he had ever seen. He got really annoyed. He asked his manager to try to buy up all the copies of the movie and burn them. He didn't want anybody to ever see the movie, and he was embarrassed by the 3 hour cut of Rambo. So, as a result of how much he hated it, they actually went back to the drawing board, decided to re edit it, and make it 90 minutes. And the movie ended up being like fantastic, like a classic until today. And not only that, a lot of like action movies or whatever it is, like that's a reference for a lot of movies for how to do things correctly. I wonder. I'm so curious. One day, I kind of want to see the 3 hour cut, but yeah, I mean, not every movie needs to be 3 hours. That's the bottom line. Lord of the Rings, by the way, final anecdote is that at some point, I for many years didn't watch the extended versions, and then for like a stream with, I think it was with Cannoli Sasquatch, I believe, my friend Cannoli, who's a swell guy. He at some point is like, "Oh, I'm doing a extended. Do you want to like?" I'm doing the extended version of, I don't know if it was the first one or the second one from the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I ended up watching it. I loved every minute of it, even though that it was now like the 3.5 hours made like 4 hours or whatever it was. I enjoyed every minute of those 4 hours. It was like 5 hours. I'd enjoy the 5 hours. Sometimes something is just good. When it's good, it's good.
Yeah.
So just throwing that out there.
See, I think I missed DJ Play Nice in my read through, so it was good to see you also, DJ Play Nice.
Oh, DJ Play Nice likes to write "wee," so that's what I have to say to him. Joshua Calkins says they cut most of his dialogue of Stallone. Yeah, and apparently that was some of his recommendation. He said to them, "I don't like the dialogue that I have. It's ruining the movie." And I guess as a test, they cut off a lot of his dialogue and just they had him look serious and make like a serious face. And it's like less is more. Why is he babbling every second? Just show him looking serious. And by cutting out a lot of this dumb dialogue that didn't help anybody and nobody wanted, it ended up making his character a lot more powerful. And the extended version is the only versions. Yes, I agree with you. They're awesome. Awesome.
You know,
And then
personally, I prefer the theatrical for the last one for Return of the King. The extended is for Return of the King is too extended.
well, I mean, because Return of the King itself in the movie theater
It
was
was
kind
already
of
nearly
long.
four. It was already nearly 4 hours
It
long.
was super long. It was super long. But if yeah, I could still do if you told me now that I'm watching the extended version of all these, I'd gladly watch them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand why maybe with Return of the King it didn't need to be necessarily extended, but I don't mind it either. I'll watch it. Dr. Qualkin says best trilogy ever by far, Lord of the Rings. You know what? Certainly a fair assessment, because I'm thinking to myself, what trilogy do we have that like just fires on all cylinders and just consistently delivers the same level of quality and just knocks it out of the park? Not a lot of trilogies. You know what I mean? Like I'd say that you think Lord of the Rings, that's one thing you could think of. Maybe, in the conversation, you have things like Star Wars, the original trilogy, and maybe Indiana Jones trilogy. But there aren't a million of them. I also, if I had to point things, there are certain things. I don't know. Indiana Jones, the original trilogy is fine. That is a really good trilogy. Back to the Future, I like the trilogy, but for me, the first movie is stronger than the other two.
Oh, significantly, yeah. The first movie is one of those rare films that's almost perfect. The script is as tight as you can possibly be. Absolutely, everything that happens in that film has a purpose. There's all just setups and payoffs from the first frame of the film to the last. It's nearly perfect. There's no wasted time in that film at all. It's great.
Haldir was paid less than his wig was worth. I was here for filming. I do extra work in Westwood, Auckland, New Zealand. Cool. I did not know that. And yeah, he probably should have been paid more. Uh, Somebody is saying that Elijah Wood, in contrast, got 8 million because they wanted him so bad. Yeah. Joshua Calkin says that Temple of Doom isn't nearly good enough. You know, I don't know. I still like Temple of Doom. I obviously I think that Indiana, like the Raiders of the Lost Ark, I think is the best out of the three. Uh, I I think that there's things that I like in Temple of Doom and things that I like in Last Crusade. I like them both. Um, maybe like Doom takes it a bit dark and heavy, whereas like Last Crusade is a little more lighthearted. And I think the first one sort of finds a balance between both of them, maybe a better balance. But with that being said, I think it's a fantastic trilogy, the Indiana Jones trilogy.
Absolutely, yes. The first one I think by far, as taken in total, is the best of the movies. With the story and the characters and the pacing of the film, it's the best of the movies. I still really enjoy the third one a lot. I don't hate Temple of Doom. It is just, as you kind of said, it is very dark as a film. It goes to some dark places that you that you don't have in the other films. But the third one I really love because you actually get to spend more time with the characters. It's not so much about the mystery of what's going on or uncovering whatever. You actually get to spend some time getting to know who Indy is and who his father is, and see their relationship together, which I do really enjoy in that film.
There was something here. Joshua Calkins says Ewoks disqualify Jedi. They don't
Nah.
disqualify. They don't disqualify. I can see, if I had to think of it, I think that the Empire Strikes Back is the best Star Wars movie in the original trilogy. Then maybe Star Wars. Then I guess Return of the Jedi. But I really like all three of them, and I don't mind the Ewoks. But I understand why for some people maybe it's a bit too campy. I will say that Return of the Jedi was one of the first movies that I saw in a movie theater, and I really really enjoyed it. So I guess there's a, for me, I really like that movie and I like that trilogy. But Lord of the Rings, one of the best advantages that it has is that they filmed all three movies at the same time. They kept the cast for 18 months, and that was just a brilliant, brilliant maneuver. Because instead of bringing them back and the actors change and gain weight and now they look this and they look older and they're not this, they're not that, they just got all the filming out of the way. They had their trilogy, and it was amazing. Just that's how to do it. That's how you do a movie like that. That was brilliant, I think. And the final thing I'll say is that Liv Tyler, she she actually suffered from this, because what happened was is that they filmed all the movie in like 18 months when she looked her skinniest, most youthful, prettiest, or whatever it is. And because the movie was coming out like every 3 years, they were releasing another one. By the time they released Return of the King, that had been several years after they filmed her. She had already gained a few pounds. She looked a little older. And when she went to like auditions or whatever it is, a lot of, I guess, casting directors, from what I remember reading, and people, they were like disappointed because they wanted the very very thin, youthful Liv Tyler, but they were getting a Liv Tyler that looked kind of different, and it annoyed them. And
Mhm.
Yeah, I can understand why that would be an issue. That's probably why she got a bunch of weird plastic surgery that she didn't need, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yeah.
She was a very pretty woman. She did not need all those operations, and I really feel like she part of it, this is just my impression, is that that pressure that was on her of, "Why don't you look like in Lord of the Rings?" She I think that that's probably what drove her to do some of those procedures, and I think it was all a mistake. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah. Have you seen all the stuff that's been blowing up around Millie Bobby Brown the last few days?
Well, I saw something that she was basically saying, "Listen, people think that I'm supposed to look the way I did in the first season of Stranger Things, but now I'm a grown woman and I don't look like that anymore, and I really am tired of having to answer to, like, reporters and people writing, like, nasty things about me, like, 'Oh, look how she looks now. Look at what's happened to her.'" And it's like, "Yeah, I'm older now, and this is how I look."
Yeah.
I
I
respect that.
I'm an adult now, and there's no reason that I should have to take all sorts of ridiculous comments about my appearance because I don't still look like a prepubescent child, right? Like, yeah, it's kind of pathetic, really, honestly, and it's kind of funny too because I saw a bunch of comments, people saying, "Yeah, there's all these Hollywood types that are complaining about this. It's because they're a bunch of PDF files who just want,
Yeah.
prepubescent kids around, you know." And then there's been some nasty comments. She calls them out in that video that she made, which I thought was excellent. It was,
I watched a bit of it, but I was doing a few other things. But yeah, I
yeah,
saw that and I understood the main idea. I don't have anything against Millie Bobby Brown. She's done nothing bad to me. I think that she's a good actress, and I don't think that, she should be uh hounded by the media. The media that always these kind of mainstream media things that are always calling everybody ists and phobes, at the end they're sitting around and like trying to shame her. And that's the ultimate hypocrisy that we're always like up against with these places. Uh yeah, I mean, the thing is that I totally get that. She can't look like she did in, in Stranger Things. She's a grown woman. I totally get that, and it's fine. Really don't know what they want from her. I not even sure. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you and I watch, like, we're talking about a review, and I say, maybe they could have brought an actress that, like, I find more appealing, but I don't usually, like, find a woman and start, like, attacking her. "Oh, look at this, look at that." Like, I don't do that, you know what I mean?
no, yeah, yeah.
Like,
And well, I say, like, why does she look like a woman now? It's just
right, I
it's such
mean,
a weird thing to, like, call out, like, "Oh, well, she doesn't still look like she did when she started a TV show 8, 9 years ago."
but you know what? That's also it annoys me with Netflix, and that's part of the problem. I kept saying they have waited so long to finish this darn show already. Just finish the fucking show. Or sorry, Sean, fucking show already. Sorry, Sean, again. Just finish the show. I feel like I started watching Stranger Things like 70 years. How many years ago did we start watching this thing? It's time. Like it took them so long to wrap up this show. Uh,
Yeah.
there was a bill passed by Congress in the Bush era that reporters could not be made to show both points of view in the media articles. After that came the propaganda age. I wasn't aware of that, but AMSS, hello, Price made. Hey, how's it going? Thanks for joining us. It's kind of late in the game, but yeah. But I think we went over a lot of great issues. I think we talked a lot.
Yeah.
Professor,
There
did
there
we get
there was
all the?
there was a lot of talking, indeed. No, I think we got everything.
Okay, let me make sure we got everything. Again, uh, like the channel, follow the channel, subscribe if you're on another platform. Please join us because we'd love to have you as part of the community if you're new to this channel. We're at whatever platform you're watching it on. And I guess, unless you have something more to add, Professor, I think this is a good time
I
to.
think that'll do it for tonight. Do we wanna say anything about next Tuesday?
Okay, so this upcoming Tuesday, we're doing a crossover event with Midnight's Edge. So it's going to be uh, on Tuesday, which is March 11th, and I'll put together posts. I'll put on my social media on different things. At 7 p.m. Eastern, there's Midnight's Edge After Dark. Professor R2 is going to be a guest there, so we're going to have a nice conversation on Midnight's Edge After Dark. there. Then afterwards, there's going to be Nick's Toxic Tuesdays, which he has his own separate panel and people there. I'm going to join that one, and we're going to be talking about the movie Crank. And then at 11:45 p.m. that night, as always, there's a Night Owl, and Tom from Midnight's Edge and Nick from Midnight's Edge, After Dark and Toxic Tuesdays, he's going to be here with us. So we're all kind of making guest appearances in the different channels, and it's sort of like it's kind of like those kind of Arrowverse crossover events. Arrowverse when it was still good, not when it went off a cliff. But you know what I'm trying to say. It's like a shared universe. We're all going to be on each other's shows that night. It's considered a Midnight's Edge crossover event. So yeah, that'll be really, really great. And we'll keep you posted about it.
Yeah.
And Robot Kitties did like $3 signs. That's
I was asking how to support with money. So yeah, there's there should be a dollar sign down, I think, in the bottom left hand corner of the chat, and that allows you to. We have to put in, credit card information, whatever, but it allows you to purchase a Rumble Rant where you can give us a little tip. But that is not required. We're just glad to have you here. If you want to
obviously
figure out how to do that, for another date, that would be fantastic. We just hope you come back and join us again later on, RoboKitty.
Yes, there's the green dollar sign, but
Yep.
in any case, you can you can also show up another time and hang out with us. But yeah, I guess this is a good time for us to step into the sunset. Am I right, Professor
Yep.
R2?
Sounds good. Thanks for joining us, everyone. It's great to see you here, both on Rumble and on YouTube. We're always glad to have you join us.
We'll see you all Tuesday, and that should be an interesting day. So check also the social media. I'll inform everybody, and we'll all hang out Tuesday, and we're looking forward to it. So you all have a great night or morning or wherever you are in the world.
Yes. Take care.
Take care. Bye.